seat.
The general debate at 10 o'clock.
We will see.
Yeah.
So, good morning, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's our last day of the annual session here in Canada. And we will start the general debate. But first, I would like to remind all of you, delegates, that the voting goes on and it's end 10:30. And I do call to order. And first of all, adoption of the agenda. Please take your seats, dear colleagues. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and is being broadcasted on the OSCE-PA's social media platforms and website. Let me first warmly welcome the Director of the OSCE Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, ODIHR, who does us the pleasure of joining us here in Vancouver. Mostly welcome, Mr. Matteo Macacci. A reversed draft agenda for the meeting has been distributed. Are there any objections? No, the agenda is adopted. Number two, continuation of the open general debate. We will first finish our open general debate. I currently have 41 speakers left on the list. I remind you that I closed the list prior to yesterday's plenary. There might be a break in the general debate for the adoption of the Vancouver final declaration at 10 o'clock. It depends on where we are on the agenda. I will limit the speaking time to 2 minutes. And I now call on Ms. Paula Cardoso, Portugal, to have the floor. She will be followed by Ms. Lucy Potoskova from Czech Republic. Ms. Paula Cardoso, the floor is yours, Madam.
Thank you. Madam President, dear colleagues, Portugal has always been a country of immigrants. There are Portuguese spread all over the world. Nowadays, Portugal is a country of destination for many immigrants, refugees, persecuted people, or even for those who flee their country for security, war, or humanitarian reasons. Solidarity and seeking to give concrete answers to these people is our main concern. Welcoming and receiving them as if they were home is our purpose. That's why we are the country in Europe with the largest Ukrainian community. More than words, which we know are very important and which we will repeat until the voice gives us away, a crucial issue is that we keep our doors and our hearts open to do everything to help Ukrainians. This is Europe's biggest challenge, gain visibility and concern. Violent extremism, xenophobic movements, exacerbated patriotism, persecution and disrespect for minorities, terrorism, climate crisis, adding to a widespread inflationary crisis, pose new security problems for Europe. Just look at the protest movements in several countries and violence they involve. OSCE must be prepared to respond politically to this challenge. Must have a fundamental role, actively collaborating in the construction of an European architecture that protects all the free countries. So I leave a word of open thanks for the new president who will be elected today. And more than words, let everyone have the commitment to overcome this enormous challenge. I cannot end without saying that these have been difficult times for those who lead this organization. So, dear Madam President Margareta, you deserve a special thanks for the ability and intelligence you had to deal with difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paula Cardoso. Next speaker on my list is Ms. Lucy Potokowska from Czech Republic. She will be followed by Mr. Gregor Gysi from Germany. Ms. Lucy Potokowska, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, I would like to take this opportunity and inform you that the second parliamentary summit of the International Crimea Platform will take place on 24th of October this year in Prague and will be organized by the Chamber of Deputies of the Parliament of the Czech Republic in close coordination with the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Invited will be speakers of the majority of the world's parliaments, as well as presidents of parliamentary assemblies and organizations. It will be our great honor to invite the newly elected president of the OSCE PA as well. The main aim of the Crimea Platform, which was first initiated in August 2021 by President Zelensky, is to maintain awareness among world leaders and the general public about the illegitimate occupation of Crimea, its negative effects on the human rights of the local inhabitants, and on security in the Black Sea region. And I am very proud that the Czech Republic will be hosting this event of such a high importance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Lucy Potokowska. Next speaker is Mr. Gregory Gysi from Germany. He will be followed by Mr. Ivan Krulko from Ukraine. Mr. Gregor Gysi, the floor is yours, sir.
Sehr geehrte Frau Präsidentin, wir alle hier verurteilen entschieden den völkerrechtswidrigen Angriffskrieg Russlands gegen die Ukraine. Ich bin 75 Jahre alt und komme aus der DDR. Ich habe den Kalten Krieg und die Angst vor einem Dritten Weltkrieg erlebt. Ich denke nur an die Kuba-Krise. Und dann gelang die Konferenz für Sicherheit und Zusammenarbeit in Helsinki. Das führte zu mehr Sicherheit und Stabilität in Europa, eine Sternstunde. Die OSZE muss ein wichtiger Friedensfaktor bleiben. Was mich entsetzt, ist die Tatsache, dass die Welt nach Helsinki im Kalten Krieg stabiler war als heute. Häufig wurde hier die Bedeutung des Völkerrechts betont. Bitte verstehen Sie mich nicht falsch. Es geht mir überhaupt nicht um eine Gleichsetzung der Völkerrechtsverletzungen Russlands mit unseren Völkerrechtsverletzungen. Aber die NATO hat als erste nach dem Kalten Krieg mit dem Krieg gegen Serbien das Völkerrecht verletzt. Das gilt auch für die Trennung des Kosovo entgegen einem Sicherheitsratsbeschluss der UNO. Auch der Krieg der USA gegen den Irak war völkerrechtswidrig. Russland verletzte mehrfach das Völkerrecht, zum Beispiel in Georgien, bei der Krim und vor allem jetzt bei diesem entsetzlichen Angriffskrieg gegen die Ukraine. Willy Brandt sagte einmal, dass man Frieden mit seinen Gegnern, nicht mit seinen Freunden schließen muss. Das stimmt. In der Außenpolitik geht es immer um Interessen, kaum um Werte. Länder wie Indien, Südafrika und Brasilien verurteilen den russischen Angriffskrieg, glauben uns das mit den Werten aber nicht. 19 Staaten wollen plötzlich Mitglied in der BRICS-Gemeinschaft werden. Erleben wir eine neue Blockbildung? Ich wünsche mir so schnell wie möglich einen Waffenstillstand zwischen Russland und der Ukraine. Die Ukraine darf kein Territorium verlieren. Nach dem Krieg brauchen wir eine neue Friedensordnung, gekennzeichnet durch Deeskalation, Rüstungskontrolle und Abrüstung, Interessenausgleich, deutlich mehr Diplomatie und vor allem die strikte Wahrung des Völkerrechts durch alle Staaten, auch durch uns und gerade auch durch Russland. Wenn die OSZE in diesem Sinne wirkt, hat sie nicht nur eine Gegenwart, sondern vor allem auch eine Zukunft. Und darauf warten die Menschen in unseren Ländern.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gregor Gysi. Next speaker is Mr. Ivan Kulko from Ukraine. He will be followed by Mr. Marius Andrei Miftod from Romania. Mr. Ivan Kulko, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, dear Madam President, dear colleagues. It's a pleasure to me to have a speech here on Parliamentary Assembly OSCE. And of course, I want to say some words about situation in ecology in Ukraine. On the night of 5th and 6th June 2023, the Russian occupied blew up the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, which they had mined back in the late February 2022, destroying the turbine hall and the plant itself, which is beyond repair now. The explosion of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant caused an environmental disaster. Water from the reservoir flooded towns and villages. The Russian Federation detonation of the dam of the Kakhovka hydroelectric plant is a terrorist attack against Ukrainian critical infrastructure, which aims to cause as many civilian destruction as possible. Due to the decrease in the water level in Kakhovka reservoir, there is a danger of an incident at another critical infrastructure facility occupied by Russia, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The explosion of the dam of Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant is an ecological and technological act of terrorism, the biggest technological disaster in Europe in recent decades, yet another example of Russian genocide against Ukrainians. This is the Kremlin's response to countries calling for peace talks with the Russian Federation.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Time is running.
Thank you very much. And just,
Thank you.
A few words.
No, I have to go
dear-
further on the agenda. I'm very sorry to interrupt you. There will be more of Ukraine than later. Mr. Arius Andrei Miftodo, are you here? No. He is voting. Then let's continue on the list. I will give the floor to Mr. Richard Coles from Latvia. He will be followed by Ms. Barbara Bartus from Poland. Mr. Richard Coles, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I would like to congratulate our U.S. colleagues on Independence Day. Congratulations. And of course, I would like to thank Canada's delegation, Dr. Afraid, on actually organizing this event. And particularly, I'm very much pleased, and I don't see, it's a rarity, to see the true colors of the Latvian flag over there on the post. It's the true color of Latvian flag. That is really dear, and not often I can see that. But on the topic, I would like to to pay the attention on the upcoming vote that we will have on Vancouver Declaration. Colleagues, we have to somewhat grasp and understand that all the resolutions that we have adopted in the past few days are not for someone, but for us. It's exactly for us, for the legislators, then to go back to our respective parliaments, countries, and actually push forward the recommendations that are enshrined in these resolutions in the final document, the Vancouver Declaration. I can give you fine examples. To recognize that the Belarus is a co-aggressor, to recognize that Wagner is a terrorist organization, to recognize that Russia is a state sponsor of terrorism. It's not only that we here in this organization, we recognize that, but in our respective parliaments as well at the highest legislative level. Because in that way, we can tackle all other issues that are entitled to sanction policy, putting the burden on Russia's aggression, and therefore supporting Ukraine in all possible ways and by any means necessary. And I would like to conclude. I heard in this room for the past few days rhetoric that we are for peace and dialogue. Yes, who is against that? No one, of course. But I would say that do not obstruct those who are trying to support Ukraine by all means necessary. If you don't, just step aside and keep quiet. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richard Coles. Next speaker on my list is Ms. Barbara Bartus, Poland. She will be followed by Mr. Andreas Aibe from Switzerland. Ms. Barbara Bartus, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you. Madam President, dear colleagues, at the winter meeting in Vienna, I said we often meet to talk about the future and how we can improve. I think we all want our organization to function well, and to have proper instruments to take action. Since Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine began, we have met 5 times. And where are we? What have we done? The impact of Russia's war on all society in Ukraine is of great concern. The conflict has hit those who are the weakest, women, older persons, the disabled, and children. The situation of Ukrainian children that have been taken from their families, abducted, and transferred to Russia should be our top priority. Russia's violent aggression against Ukraine deserves special attention also from the OSCE EPA. That is why the Polish delegation presented the resolution that concerned both the situation of women and the situation of children. I believe this touches on our core values. We have to speak loud and clear about these terrible actions. But unless we change our rules, we will not be able to act, and act we must. Poland has supported, will support all changes that help to get out of this impasse and inability to act. As I have said before, there is no gray area in the world of rules. Let's change. Let's rebuild the OSCE. Let's make it stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barbara Bartos. Before I give the floor to other speakers, it's a true honor to welcome Mr. Matteo Macacci, head of DIR, and also a former member of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Welcome. And now, next speaker on my list is Mr. Andreas Aebe from Switzerland. He will be followed by Mr. Marius Andrei Miftodo from Romania. Mr. Andreas Aebe, the floor is yours, sir.
Sehr geehrte Frau Präsidentin, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen. Ich möchte heute den Schwerpunkt auf die demokratische und integrative Führung der Streitkräfte legen, als eine wesentliche Dimension in jeder Gesellschaft. Ich denke hier insbesondere an den OSZE-Verhaltenskodex zu politisch-militärischen Aspekten der Sicherheit, ein Instrument, dem die Schweiz größte Bedeutung beimisst. Seit seiner Aushandlung hat der Verhaltenskodex in keiner Weise an Bedeutung verloren. Obwohl er nicht überarbeitet wurde, hat der Verhaltenskodex an Bedeutung gewonnen, und zwar sowohl für die innerstaatliche als auch für die zwischenstaatliche Dimension. Beide Dimensionen, die miteinander verknüpft sind für die Sicherheit und Stabilität in der OSZE-Region von entscheidender Bedeutung. Ein inklusiver, verantwortlicher und demokratisch kontrollierter Sicherheitssektor ist eine wesentliche Voraussetzung für die Stärkung der Sicherheit des Staates und seiner Bürgerinnen und Bürger sowie für die Bewältigung der zahlreichen sicherheitsrelevanten Herausforderungen. Die OSZE hat mit ihrem Verhaltenskodex eine Vorreiterrolle in diesem Bereich übernommen. Es ist daher umso bedauerlicher, dass die in diesem Dokument verankerten Normen und Prinzipien, die von allen Teilnehmerstaaten angenommen wurden, in den Konflikten und Kriegen, die das OSZE-Gebiet belasten, weiterhin massiv und täglich verletzt werden. Sehr geehrte Frau Präsidentin, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, der Verhaltenskodex, der im Kontext eines Konflikts angewandt wird, ermutigt die Teilnehmerstaaten gerade dazu, auf eine wirksame Einstellung der Feindseligkeiten und eine politische Lösung hinzuarbeiten. Bis zum nächsten Jahr bleibt uns also nur noch wenig Zeit, um uns an die Normen und Grundsätze, die unsere Regierungen nach langer kooperativer Arbeit gemeinsam verabschiedet haben, zu erinnern und sie umzusetzen.
Thank you, Mr. Andreas Aebe. Now, let's continue on the list. Next speaker is Mr. Marius Andrei Miftodo from Romania. He will be followed by Ms. Yevgenia Kravchuk from Ukraine. Mr. Marius Andrei Miftodo, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, when publishing, traditional media is held accountable by ethic rules which provide norms on verifying the facts presented in the articles. The internet, especially through social media, but also through blogs, online publications, virtual communities, etc., brings a lot of the information to our citizens. However, new channels of communication are no longer held accountable by the professional standards of the traditional media. The information is just offered to the reader, and it is the reader's responsibility to filter it and to understand if it is true, half true, if any techniques of manipulation were used, or if it's reliable in any way. A very complex task for someone scrolling casually, if you ask me. Malicious actors take advantage of this new information environment and try to gain supporters for their own narratives in our societies. We have to work on preserving our democratic values on a daily basis. It is common responsibility that falls on government, the civil society, media, and international organizations. From an institutional point of view, as it is so widely spread and keeps coming from various sources, detecting disinformation can be really challenging. It implies developing early detection mechanisms, combining human expertise with proper technology. After detection, there is a small window of opportunity for offering the appropriate response against it using the most appropriate channels of communications. As parliamentarians, it is essential to strengthen national anti-disinformation legislation while protecting the freedom of expression. Finally, as disinformation affects our electoral processes, it is imperative to have increased vigilance on the part of all information actors before and during elections. It is equally important that relevant authorities take a firm approach in refuting false information and hate speech as it occurs. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mariusz Andrzej Miftode. Next speaker is Ms. Yevgenia Kravchuk from Ukraine. She will be followed by Mr. Milan Samyukosho from Kyrgyzstan. Ms. Yevgenia Kravchuk, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Madam President, dear colleagues. I want to speak about leadership. Because right now we'll be, planning to go home, and what you take with you to your countries. And I say that we have to be bold, strong, and very persistent. The news might be very grim because there are already another facts or some news that Russians could do something to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Yes, it may happen, but also, I want to underline that Russia does have tanks, these missiles, everything, but Russian regime and Russia itself as a terrorist state is much weaker than you think. And I probably should, give also the sign at the end of the tunnel. I want to show you part of the Kinzhal missile that it was meant to be the hypersonic ballistic missile that cannot be intercepted. And it was intercepted by Patriot this June. And happy 4th of July to our friends. And I want to thank to all of our partners that give Patriots, NASAMS, IRIS-T, Crotel, Gepard, and other air defense systems to defend us while we are defending democracy. So thank you for that, and let's show leadership in our countries as well as in this parliamentary assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yevgenia Kravchuk. Next speaker is Mr. Milan Samyukosho from Kyrgyzstan. He will be followed by Mr. Asay Gulyev from Azerbaijan. Mr. Milan Samyukosho, the floor is yours, sir.
Спасибо, уважаемая госпожа председатель, уважаемые коллеги. Позвольте мне от имени делегации Жогорку Кеңеши Кыргызской Республики приветствовать докладчиков и всех приглашенных гостей сегодняшнего летнего заседания. Уважаемые участники, хочу прежде всего подчеркнуть, что Жогорку Кеңеш Кыргызской Республики продолжает активное участие в работе парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ, тем самым внося свой вклад в укрепление парламентаризма в регионе, а также в усиление тесного сотрудничества между всеми парламентами региона ОБСЕ. Для законодательного органа нашей страны в лице Жогорку Кеңеши Кыргызской Республики, который в соответствии с Конституцией Кыргызской Республики является одним из ключевых ветвей власти. осуществляющие законодательную власть и контрольные функции, эффективное сотрудничество с парламентской ассамблеей ОБСЕ, несомненно, вносит вклад в развитие парламентаризма и демократии в нашей стране. Но необходимо подчеркнуть, что угроза международному миру и безопасности, а также страдания, вызываемые конфликтом, недопустимы. Парламентарии Кыргызстана готовы работать со своими коллегами и всеми заинтересованными странами для достижения мирного решения конфликтов. К сожалению, боевые действия в Украине продолжаются. Кыргызстан, как и весь мир, с большой тревогой и сопереживанием следит за этими трагическими событиями. Мы исходим из того, что любой конфликт необходимо разрешать исключительно политико-дипломатическими средствами. Всем заинтересованным сторонам необходимо искать любые возможности для урегулирования ситуации, в том числе путем создания новых форматов и механизмов, если существующие перестали работать. Мы поддерживаем любые посреднические усилия и оказать необходимое содействие, чтобы установился мир взаимопонимания. Спасибо большое.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Milan Samyukorso. Next speaker is Mr. Asay Guliev from Azerbaijan. He will be followed by Mr. Begmurat Muhammedov from Turkmenistan. Mr. Asay Guliev, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I would like to talk about the hostile amendment that has been adopted to paragraph 22 of the first committee resolution, which contains unfounded allegations for Azerbaijan, as if Azerbaijan has military forces in the territory of Armenia. It is totally wrong and has nothing to do with reality. Dear colleagues, for 3 reasons, I want to ask you to defeat this paragraph, which is 26, that is going to be discussed in Vancouver Declaration. First, as I said, it is not true. On the other hand, Armenia still keeps illegally, it is 10,000 military forces in Karabakh that recognize integral part of Azerbaijan. And also, we have to make sure that OECPA plays very positive role in that regard and doesn't give any wrong signal to the sides on the ground. As you know, that Azerbaijan and Armenia agreed to work on the limitation issue and created for the purposes special commissions. And the second reason that I want to ask you, if we go with that paragraph, it will nullify the effort of the OECPA to promote the peace and the prosperity and also reconciliation in the region. Finally, I would like to ask that by adopting this paragraph, the revanchist circles in Armenia will be emboldened and the negative effect will be very huge. And this is why I will ask our colleagues to reconsider their position and while consideration the Vancouver Declaration to defeat and not to include this paragraph 26 into final declaration of Vancouver. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Asay Guliev. Next speaker on my list is Mr. Bugmurat Muhammadov from Turkmenistan. He will be followed by Ms. Helga Vala Helgasdottir from Iceland. Mr. Bagmurat Muhammadov, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, I have the honor to speak on behalf of Turkmenistan delegation. Turkmenistan, as a neutral state, follows a policy of friendship and trust in ensuring peace and security. One of the priorities of the Parliament of Turkmenistan is to support our country's foreign policy through parliamentary diplomacy. Dear colleagues, I would like to emphasize the importance of the Central Asian Regional Conference, the role of neutrality states in strengthening security, stability, and dialogue held recently in Ashgabat. The outcome statement of this conference was adopted as an official document of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. This is strong evidence in support of promoting the principles of neutrality at parliamentary level. I sincerely thank Madam Sederfeld and Madam Pia Kauma for their personal support in organizing this conference. Dear colleagues, Turkmenistan continuously promotes initiatives in the field of preventive diplomacy, especially in Central Asian region. As one of the examples above mentioned is the adoption of the UN General Assembly resolutions, declaring 2023 the International Year of Dialogue as a guarantee of peace and zone of peace and trust and cooperation in Central Asia at the initiative of Turkmenistan. We believe these documents are highly important also within the OSCE and Helsinki Plus 50 initiative in order to coordinate cooperation in ensuring security and development in the region. Madam President, the Parliament of Turkmenistan will carry out the necessary work to participate in the Counterterrorism Committee, Young Parliamentarians Network, and Informal Gender Network to expand our cooperation. In conclusion, I reiterate that Turkmenistan is ready to further develop our parliamentary cooperation based on neutrality. I sincerely thank the Canadian colleagues for excellent hospitality. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Begmurat Mamadov. Next speaker on my list is Ms. Helga Vala Helgasdottir from Iceland. She will be followed by Mr. Stanislav Anastasov from Bulgaria. Ms. Helga Vala Helgasdottir, the floor is yours, madam.
Madam President, dear colleagues, I want to discuss the situation of a political prisoner and the importance of protecting media freedom, investigative journalists, and whistleblowers. Yesterday, a well-known investigative journalist celebrated his 5th birthday as a political prisoner in one of the most severe prisons in the world. He is incarcerated for publishing news about war crimes, video footage revealing the assault on civilian infrastructure provided by a whistleblower. The journalist now faces the prospect of extradition to the state that seeks to retaliate against him for his reporting. Dear colleagues, while we condemn human rights abuses in Russia and Belarus, we must not turn a blind eye to other nations. This journalist and political prisoner is not in a maximum security prison in Russia or Belarus. He is held in Belmarsh prison in the United Kingdom, a facility that houses the most dangerous criminals, those convicted of terrorism and mass murder. Julian Assange, the investigative journalist, needs our support. He published news that the US government wanted to keep secret. The British authorities arrested him at the request of US authorities, and he now faces extradition after the court decision where he wasn't granted basic human rights, neither direct legal access nor necessary health care. And he is going to be deported to the United States. Dear colleagues from the United States and the United Kingdom, let's not allow this to happen. Let's ensure that this political prisoner is set free as soon as possible in the name of human rights, democracy, and the freedom of the press. Thank you.
Vala Helgasdottir. Next speaker on my list is Mr. Stanislav Anastasov from Bulgaria. He will be followed by Mr. Francesco Sobara from Canada. Mr. Stanislav Anastasov, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dear colleagues, the Bulgarian Parliament today has voted on a decision which is sponsored with signatures of 2/3 of all MPs. With this new decision today, Bulgaria is emphasizing the significant contribution of Ukraine, which voluntarily renounced nuclear weapons to the security of the Euro-Atlantic area and beyond. I want to underline that. And in particular by countering the armed aggression of the Russian Federation and the significant progress that the Ukraine has already achieved on the path to the Euro-Atlantic integration. We, the MPs from the Bulgarian Parliament, are taking into account the unprecedented level of support of the Ukrainian people for Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic integration and the constitutional definition of the full-fledged membership in NATO as a strategic course of the state. Dear colleagues, we are fully aware that OSCE PA is not NATO PA, but dear parliamentarians from NATO member states, the NATO summit in Vilnius is in 1 week from now. We, the Bulgarian delegation, want to recall that we, as parliamentarians, have a leading role in supporting Ukraine to defend itself from the aggressor. With this decision today, the Parliament of Bulgaria is obliging our government to support Ukraine's NATO membership during the Vilnius summit with a clear timeline. And we hope that the rest of the NATO member states' parliaments will do so. Last but not least, when we talk about peace, we should clearly define what kind of peace do we stand for. We support the peace formula of the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, aimed at establishing a comprehensive, just and sustainable peace for Ukraine and the security of the whole world. Thank you for the attention. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you, Mr. Stanislav Anastasov. Next speaker is Mr. Francesco Sobara from Canada. He will be followed by Ms. Amanda Spiteri-Grek from Malta. Mr. Francesco Sobara, the floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, President. Good morning, fellow parliamentarians. Thank you for the opportunity to address this plenary. I would like to take a few moments to speak about hybrid threats to security, including disinformation in the OSCE region. In the 21st century, the security threats that we face are multidimensional and affect each of the OSCE's 3 dimensions. Over the course of this annual session, we have heard about many of these threats, including disinformation, terrorism, organized crime, and economic coercion. Many of these threats occurred in the so-called gray zone, an operational space that exists between peace and war. Coercive state behavior in the gray zone often takes advantage of ambiguity, plausible deniability, and unconventional tools to achieve strategic gains. While gray zone or hybrid threats are not new, a convergence of factors has increased the concentration of and the potential threat posed by this kind of activity. In recent years, the vast shift in international mobility and the way that information flows, along with technological advancements in the civilian and military domains, have given states access to a wider range of tools for advancing their political, economic, and security goals. To take one example, states are increasingly deploying cyber weapons or using internet-based technology to spread disinformation and false narratives as a way of exacerbating tensions and fomenting polarization. Russia's efforts to manipulate information in this way are widely known. The Kremlin has waged relentless disinformation campaigns against Ukraine since 2014. While many of these disinformation campaigns have focused on Ukraine's Russian-speaking population, Russia has also targeted international audiences in an attempt to justify its illegal war of aggression against Ukraine. In this context, it is critical that OSCE participating states increase their cooperation to fight Russian disinformation and propaganda. Moreover, in a highly interconnected international security environment, it bears repeating that no country can ensure its national security alone. Colleagues, hybrid security threats, including state-sponsored disinformation campaigns, have a corrosive effect on democracy that can destabilize the fabric of our rules-based international order. I look forward to the adoption of the Vancouver Declaration that offers practical recommendations to governments and
Mr.
parliaments.
Francesco
Thank you.
Sabara. Next speaker is Ms. Amanda Spiteri-Grek from Malta. She will be followed by, he's not here, okay? Then I will give the floor to Mr. Oscar Mina from San Marino. He will be followed by Ms. Maria Karapetian from Armenia. Mr. Oscar Mina, the floor is yours, sir.
Merci, Madame le Président. Après toutes ces journées de travail, je pense qu'il convient de répéter une fois de plus qu'il est nécessaire de continuer à se réunir au sein de cet organe pour aborder la question de la coopération pour la sécurité mondiale et transnationale. Une question qui doit nous garder unis face aux menaces dans la région de l'OSCE, en particulier contre l'autoritarisme et toute autre forme de menace à l'intégrité territoriale et à la souveraineté des États, qui doivent sans aucun doute représenter le point à partir duquel former un front commun et continuer à soutenir cet organe face à cette tentative indirecte de le rendre stérile, face à ces agressions militaires, notamment dans ce conflit russo-ukrainien. La nécessité de la diplomatie parlementaire, de la coopération diplomatique dans cette région et de la sécurité transfrontalière est fondamentale. Et c'est le point à partir duquel nous devons tous avoir dans notre cadre politique. Le dialogue doit prévaloir surtout. Et tous les États de la région OSCE doivent avoir cet objectif dans cette organisation. À cet égard, il est donc nécessaire de promouvoir un engagement continu de l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE pour reconstruire la sécurité européenne et faire respecter le droit international dans le cadre des principes cardinaux de la déclaration de l'acte final de Helsinki, de la Charte des Nations Unies et de la Charte de Paris. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oscar Mina. Next speaker on my list is Ms. Maria Karapetyan from Armenia. She will be followed by Mr. Matti Raidma from Estonia. Ms. Maria Karapetyan, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, I invite you to reread paragraph 26 of the Vancouver Declaration and to protect this paragraph as adopted by the First Committee. This paragraph welcomes the mediation of the United States and the European Union in the negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is extremely important to keep. It is equally important to keep the call to restore the free movement of people and goods through the Lachin corridor. Finally, the paragraph calls for the withdrawal of Azerbaijani troops from the sovereign territory of the Republic of Armenia. When Azerbaijan attacked the sovereign territory of the Republic of Armenia last September, we invited a monitoring mission of the European Union to observe and report on the situation at the border. The EU monitors are in Armenia for already several months. Azerbaijan has refused to have such a mission on their side. The EU Parliament has adopted 2 resolutions calling for the withdrawal of Azerbaijani troops from our territory on January 18 and on March 15. The European External Action Service and the US Department of State have also repeatedly called for the withdrawal of Azerbaijani troops from the territory of the Republic of Armenia. From our side, Armenia recognizes the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, including Nagorno-Karabakh, with the understanding that the rights and security of the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh need to be discussed in a dialogue between Baku and the representatives of the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh with international presence of such a dialogue. I understand Azerbaijan does not like to hear this because they want to continue the conflict. Azerbaijan has announced it is preparing a new military operation in Nagorno-Karabakh called Revenge 3. Revenge 3 because the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh have already been attacked by operations Revenge 1 and Revenge 2 as part of the integration policies of Azerbaijan. This needs to be stopped.
Thank you, Ms. Maria Karapetyan. Next speaker on my list is Mr. Matti Raidma from Estonia. He will be followed by Mr. Anwar Green from United Kingdom. Mr. Matti Raidma, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, our common organization has done a lot to reduce tensions and support to resolve conflicts in our region and between member states. This is reflected also in our debates here in Vancouver and the resolutions we have adopted, and also in Vancouver Declaration, what we will adopt later today. Estonia highly values the role of OSCE as a flagship of the region's security and cooperation, and wants to contribute with all our energy, including by applying for the chairmanship of the OSCE next year. We hope that a positive solution will be found in today's difficult situation. Fully understanding our Assembly role in ensuring the security of the region and resolving conflicts, I would like to call on all my colleagues to understand the difference between a conflict and the large-scale genocidal war of aggression and crime against humanity, what we all are witnessing in Ukraine, and caused by one of the OSCE members, Russia. This is a situation that cannot be solved through dialogue. Without the trial of the perpetrators of the crime aggression, it will not be possible to achieve a just and lasting peace, both in Ukraine and in all Europe. The OSCE Parliamentary Assembly has a historical responsibility to understand this difference. Today, OSCE has to be alive as never before. The future of all our security is at stake today. Together with Ukraine, we must eliminate the cause. In the name of our present and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear colleague Redma. Our next speaker is Mr. Queen from United Kingdom, and then Anna Pic from France.
Thank you. From climate change to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, to security, to the migrant crisis, our modern world is fraught with existential challenges that can only be solved through international cooperation and collaboration. I believe the OSCE has a vital role to play in this respect, and as the world's largest regional security organisation, it provides a unique forum by which to engage with 57 participating nations right across the globe. The OSCE was formed to push against the failed ideology of isolationism, to unite nations in common goals and to work towards a safer and more just world. But as Russia's appalling invasion of Ukraine has demonstrated, there are individuals and regimes who wish to drive us apart, to undermine peace in the pursuit of tyrannical political ambitions. When this aggression occurs within our own membership, the OSCE must work together to stand against it. This is not always simple, but it is absolutely essential if our organisation is to live by its founding principles. That is why throughout this session I've been heartened by many members standing alongside Ukraine and sending a crystal clear message that Russia's actions will not be tolerated. The work of this organisation is as relevant now, if not more, than it was in the 1970s, at the height of the Cold War, or at the end of that particular period with the fall of the Iron Curtain. We owe it to the people we represent to tackle the common challenges we face, all the while defending human rights, liberty and democracy. These are not optional ambitions, they are essential to the prosperity of the whole world we share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Queen. Now, Anna Pic from France.
Merci. Cette session est pour nous, à la POSCE, l'occasion d'évoquer les enjeux liés à la protection des installations nucléaires en période de conflit armé. Les agressions russes ont ébranlé notre modèle de paix européen et marquent le retour du risque d'une catastrophe nucléaire sur notre continent. Cette crainte résulte évidemment de la menace nucléaire intolérable brandie par la Russie, mais aussi de la gestion des installations nucléaires qui sont au cœur du conflit. 5 centrales nucléaires ukrainiennes ont été bombardées depuis le début du conflit. Zaporijjia est passé sous contrôle militaire et opérationnel de la Russie. La destruction du barrage de Kakhovka a totalement asséché le réservoir d'eau servant à refroidir la centrale de Zaporijjia. L'Agence internationale de l'énergie atomique a rappelé devant le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies que la situation de cette centrale restait extrêmement fragile et dangereuse. À ce titre, nous soutenons pleinement l'AIEA dans sa mission et soulignons la mobilisation essentielle des personnels travaillant dans des conditions extrêmement difficiles. La situation en Ukraine met en évidence l'ampleur et l'imprévisibilité du danger que représentent les centrales nucléaires situées en zone de guerre et leur impact potentiellement dramatique. Les obligations juridiques qui découlent notamment des conventions de Genève de 1949 ainsi que de l'article 56 du protocole additionnel 1 de 1977 ne nous semblent pas assez protectrices dans le cas de la production électronucléaire, car ce protocole introduit des exceptions dangereuses. Il semble absolument nécessaire de pouvoir apporter une protection absolue à toutes les installations nucléaires, quelle que soit leur finalité au regard du risque pour l'ensemble des populations. Bien que consciente des difficultés à obtenir des avancées sur ces sujets, nous estimons que la situation actuelle en Ukraine impose de travailler à des solutions rapides et pérennes. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Anna. The next speakers are Lilith Galdistian from Armenia and Birgir Torarinso from Iceland.
Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all those who supported the autumn session to be hosted in Armenia. I'd like also to thank my colleagues who voted in favor of a very vital amendment for Nagorno-Karabakh. In line with the PAC resolution on ensuring free and safe access through the Lachin corridor, it's a small light of hope for thousands of Armenians. of Nagorno-Karabakh, who are facing an existential crisis in the hands of a total dictatorship. Unfortunately, it's hard to stay optimistic when literally yesterday, Aliyev reiterated that Azerbaijan is going to carry out so-called Project Revenge 3. Please note, the key word here is revenge. It's hard to stay optimistic when the head of the Azerbaijan delegation is trying to mislead the assembly. The situation brings back the tragic memory of the Armenian genocide in the beginning of the 20th century. Azerbaijan is openly demonstrating genocidal behavior and pushing the indigenous people of Nagorno-Karabakh to leave their homes. As the tragedy of the Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians continues with no sanctions from the international community, Azerbaijan and Turkey push forward their pan-Turkic idea with total disregard towards international law. Dear colleagues, again and again, I am ringing the alarm bell. I am encouraging you to take more strict actions. Your tolerance will serve as a green light for Azerbaijan to continue its policy of ethnic cleansing, driving out an ancient Christian civilization out of their homeland. Don't allow the destiny of Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians to be sacrificed to the geopolitical interests. Peace enforced by aggression cannot ensure stability. Azerbaijan's genocidal behavior is testament to the fact that the right of the people of Artsakh to self-determination has no alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speakers are Birgir Torarinso from Iceland, then Marka Potashvili from Georgia, and then Christina Michaud from Canada.
Mr. President, the ongoing blockade by Azerbaijan of the Lachen corridor, the lifeline to the people of Nagorno-Karabakh, has put the entire population in state of total isolation for the last 6 months. Critical infrastructure of Nagorno-Karabakh has also been deliberately disrupted: natural gas, electricity, and mobile communication. The people of Nagorno-Karabakh are isolated from the outside world. Mr. President, this is totally unacceptable. These actions of Azerbaijan are a clear violation of the November 2020 agreement which the President of Azerbaijan signed, the violation of binding decision of the European Convention of Human Rights and International Court of Justice. The ones that are suffering are innocent people. What would Azerbaijan do if they were facing blockade by themselves? The people of Nagorno-Karabakh are no different than other people, no different than the people of Azerbaijan, and no different than us parliamentarians. They want to live a normal life. Last February, the International Court of Justice recognized the blockade as indication of racial discrimination against Armenians. In an interview last January, the President of Azerbaijan stated that the exit from Nagorno-Karabakh was open and everyone could leave. He forgot to say that if you leave, you cannot come back. The statement of the President clearly shows that the blockade is another proof that the main goal of Azerbaijan is ethnic cleansing of Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan must change its course and start showing real humility to the neighbors, start showing that they care for the needs of innocent people. Mr. President, I call on Azerbaijan to ensure free and safe access to the lifeline to the people of Nagorno-Karabakh and lift the blockade immediately.
Thank you, Birgir. Our next speakers are Marka Potashvili from Georgia, and then Christina Michaud from France, and then Dora Duro from Hungary.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, while we all are deeply concerned about Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine and strongly support heroic fight of Ukrainian nation against Russia's imperialistic ambitions, we should not forget the roots of this brutal reality we face today. Georgia is the first victim of Russian aggressive policy in its neighborhood, still facing Russian occupation and illegal military presence in its two regions, still trying to find ways to peaceful conflict resolution, living with the painful memories of brutal wars and still without any security guarantees. Nevertheless, we do our best to follow progressive agenda, work hard to achieve better economic and social conditions for our citizens, attractive environment for investments, and to contribute to developing middle corridor for transits. We seek our security and aspire to become members of the European Union and NATO. Throughout the years, we have proved to be a reliable partner. Heroic Georgian soldiers stood with NATO forces in Afghanistan and served in EU missions in Central Africa and Mali. Georgia was promised open door to NATO in 2008. 15 years ago, and we are still standing in front of that door. Georgia has applied for EU membership together with Ukraine and Moldova last year and was granted European perspective without candidate status, unlike Ukraine and Moldova. We have no time and luxury for protracted promises, neither for dealing with the wrong narratives and perceptions that can serve only Russian interests. We need clear and real actions of support. I hope the EU decision on granting candidate status to Georgia end of this year will be one of these actions, and we will be allowed to continue our European path together with other candidate countries. Russia will be defeated once all its neighbors will be able to implement their own sovereign choices, and this can be done only through our common efforts and our fight for defending principles and norms of this organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marka. And of course, our next speaker is from Canada, Christina Michaud, then Dora Duro, and then from Canada, the next one, Luc Berthold.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. D'abord, je veux prendre un moment pour remercier les interprètes qu'on ne salue pas assez souvent. Ils font un travail extraordinaire, alors merci. Merci également à toutes les personnes qui ont contribué à l'organisation de cette session annuelle. Un merci tout spécial pour notre chef de délégation, Dr. Eddie Fry. Et merci à tous les rapporteurs, toutes les personnes qui ont contribué à améliorer les rapports et les propositions devant nous. Je pense qu'on peut être fiers du travail accompli. En ces temps difficiles pour la démocratie, c'est bon de voir des parlementaires de partout dans le monde qui travaillent ensemble et qui cherchent à trouver des solutions pour faire en sorte que nous vivions dans un monde meilleur, et ce, malgré tous les défis qui se mettent sur notre route. C'est bien de voir des parlementaires, peu importe leur position sur l'échiquier politique, unis en soutien à nos amis ukrainiens. Parfois, le pire fait ressortir le meilleur en nous. Il fait tomber les barrières partisanes et nous permet de démontrer une solidarité complète, mais surtout sincère. Évidemment, l'agression non provoquée de la Russie en Ukraine et l'horreur qu'elle amène commandent cette solidarité. Nous ne pouvons que nous montrer unis devant l'agresseur et continuer de garantir un soutien politique, financier, humanitaire et militaire au peuple ukrainien. Les milliers de victimes, les communautés détruites, les enfants enlevés, les femmes violées, les atrocités commises sont impardonnables. La menace nucléaire continue de se faire sentir et la désinformation ne cesse de polluer les discussions. Chers collègues, montrons-nous à la hauteur. Mettons tous les efforts possibles pour la fin de cette agression illégale. Montrons la pertinence de la diplomatie parlementaire, des relations de nation à nation que nous avons bâties au fil des ans, des accords que nous avons adoptés et des lois que nous avons votées. Faisons-le pour défendre la liberté, la souveraineté et l'intégrité territoriale de l'Ukraine. Faisons-le pour ceux qui la défendent chaque jour au front, dont des milliers de femmes. Faisons-le pour permettre aux jeunes Ukrainiens qui ont temporairement pris refuge chez nous de retourner vivre dans une Ukraine stable et sécuritaire. Ces jeunes Ukrainiens, comme les jeunes de partout dans le monde, méritent qu'on se batte pour leur assurer l'avenir qu'ils méritent. J'en profite donc pour remercier notre collègue Farah Karimi pour le dépôt d'un projet de résolution sur les générations futures. En tant que jeune parlementaire, je comprends plus que jamais l'importance d'inclure les jeunes dans nos discussions et de faire le nécessaire pour garantir le bien-être des générations qui nous suivront. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci. Our next speaker, Dora Duro, then Luc Berthold, and then Tahir Mikishvili from Azerbaijan.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'Ukraine, l'agression sauvage et illégale de la Russie, l'environnement, l'antisémitisme, la société civile, les conséquences sexo-spécifiques des conflits armés, tous des sujets qu'on a abordés pendant cette session. Mais je ne peux malheureusement pas passer sous silence la gouvernance de notre organisation mère, l'OSCE, et les conséquences que ça peut avoir sur nos débats. Les problèmes majeurs que nous vivons à l'OSCE, en raison de l'incapacité à trouver des solutions, minent la crédibilité de notre organisation. Les parlementaires sont la voix du peuple, élus par le peuple et congédiés par le peuple. C'est ça, la démocratie. Les parlementaires parlent à leur Parlement pour convaincre leur gouvernement et pour faire avancer leurs idées et leurs valeurs à travers leurs lois et leurs critiques des lois. L'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE a été créée pour être la voix des parlements des pays membres, ce qui comprend les gouvernements et les oppositions. L'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE réunit des conservateurs, des libéraux, des socialistes, des Verts, des démocrates et pardon pour les groupes que je peux oublier. Comme les partis politiques dans les parlements, nos discours, nos travaux visent à influencer notre corps exécutif. Cependant, nous sommes confrontés aujourd'hui à un grave problème. À qui seront transmises nos déclarations? Qui va donner suite à nos débats, à nos recommandations, à nos idées? Où est l'OSCE à Vancouver? Quelle importance l'OSCE accorde-t-elle à son assemblée parlementaire? Est-ce que l'OSCE va survivre à la crise qu'elle traverse actuellement? Quelle est la volonté de nos gouvernements de maintenir une organisation de coopération et de sécurité en Europe, alors que l'un de ses membres a clairement piétiné les principes des accords d'Helsinki? Le travail des parlementaires ne s'arrêtera pas avec la déclaration de Vancouver. Nous avons le devoir de renforcer le rôle de l'OSCE pour la paix et la démocratie en Europe et par le fait même partout dans le monde. Comme l'histoire a malheureusement toujours tenté, l'OSCE doit apprendre à son tour car son rôle sera plus important que jamais à l'avenir. Nous avons parlé à Vancouver, nous devons maintenant agir dans chacun de nos parlements pour assurer l'avenir de notre organisation et bien sûr la mise en œuvre de la déclaration de Vancouver. Merci.
Merci. Now, Tora Turo from Hungary and then Mr. Tahir Mekishvili from Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's important to ask whether the policies pursued by Europe are capable of serving our interests and bringing the war to an end. It is now clear that they are not. Even the IMF is forecasting that Russia's economic growth will overtake Germany, Europe's largest economy, both this year and in 2024 too. While this war is the worst thing that could happen to Europe, almost every politician is speaking about that was unprovoked. But do you know that the Ukrainian government continues to remove monuments, flags, texts, and they ban the use of minority languages in education and in public administration, terrorize minority community leaders as they do to Hungarians, and at the same time, they expect the support of Hungary. The best thing we can do for the people threatened by war is to make an end to the conflict immediately. Europe is now losing Russia, one of its most important export markets and one of its most reliable suppliers of cheap energy and raw materials, without which its competitiveness on the world market will be severely damaged. This certainly cannot be in Europe's interests. Let me also say a few words as a mother of 4 children about the issue of demography, which is the most important in the 21st century for Europe. We can only preserve our country if we focus on supporting the families living there. But with such demographic indicators, public finances will simply become unsustainable in a short time. For me, it is unacceptable to replace children who should be born in Hungary with migrants from other cultures. There are many illegal attempts to break into my country every day, which endanger the safety and even the lives of the police officers protecting our border. So our citizens' security and future have to be the most important for us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Dora Duro. Next speaker is Mr. Tahir Mirkishvili from Azerbaijan. He will be followed by Mr. Yaroslav Yurchunin from Ukraine. And let me just remind you that the voting closed 10:30. After the speech of Mr. Yaroslav Yurchunin, we will continue with the adoption of the Vancouver Final Declaration. Mr. Tahir Mirkishvili, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, instead of attempting to spread distortions and disinformation, we urge Armenia to refrain from provocations and actions undermining the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, embrace the peace agenda initiated by Azerbaijan, comply with its international obligations, including those under the trilateral statement, in particular the opening of communications and complete withdrawal of its forces from the territory of Azerbaijan. And we call Armenia also to stop the spreading false information here, because Lachin Road is open the ethnic local Armenians are using this. We have a video we can show to everybody. We don't have any troops in the territory of Armenia, and we think that we shouldn't use this parliament assembly to push the both sides in a very active peace talking process now. We reiterate that the normalization of relations between Azerbaijan and Armenia, based on mutual recognition of and respect for each other's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and international borders, is the only way to ensure lasting peace and stability in our regions. Azerbaijan reaffirms its readiness to continue dialogue and integration with the international partners pursuing this goal. We call my colleagues to vote for deletion of the paragraph 26, because we should know that only this deletion will increase the image of our parliament assembly in peace process between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tahir Mikishvili. And let me once again say that the voting closes 10:30. We will break the general debate, take it up again and continue. So all who have signed up for the speakers list will get the floor. But next speaker and the last speaker before the adoption of the Vancouver final declaration is Mr. Yaroslav Yurachin from Ukraine. And as I said, after the final adoption of the Vancouver final declaration, the debate will continue. Mr. Yaroslav Yurachin, the floor is yours, sir.
Thanks a lot. First of all, it's a pleasure and big honor to say thanks for Lithuanian delegation, one Lithuanian delegation, because 2 days ago, on the borderline, on the front line, Lithuanian military volunteer Valerius Polkovnikovas was killed by Russia aggression. He voluntarily joined to Ukrainian army, as a lot of European, of Western, of world volunteers who help us save democracy, save electoral democracy, and all values for which we are fighting for. So thanks, Valerius Polkovnikovas. He is a hero, and we will remember them as other heroes who was killed. And I really thank all countries who are not hiding for semi-cold neutrality, but take part in the most influential fighting of our century, fighting with totalitarianism. And it's very comfortable to be neutral, but it's a miracle, but we find some chips for drones, from Russia drones, Orlans, and these chips was elaborated, was produced by Swiss campaign U-Blocks, and maybe it was buy through the Chechnya, maybe it was buy through other country, but still it's business with aggressor. So what we need? We need sanction. We need your help, no neutrality. It's it's a luxury to be neutral in a time of war. Be with us and we will win. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Mr. Yaroslav Yurachin. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we take a break in the general debate, and it will continue later. The voting continue in another 20 minutes. 10:30 will the voting close. And now we move on to the adoption of the Vancouver Final Declaration. We will now consider the draft Vancouver Declaration, which consists of the final resolutions from each of the 3 general committees, together with the supplementary items referred to the general committees and the plenary, which were considered by the drafting committee yesterday. Lord Smith of Hindhead chaired the drafting committee. In accordance with paragraph 3, Rule 39, the drafting committee produced this draft declaration and draft resolution of the Assembly, as well as the preamble. There are some minor technical changes in the text before you, but there are no changes of substantial in anything the drafting committees has done on our behalf. Under paragraph 2 of Rule 39 of our Rules of Procedure, no further amendments can be proposed at this stage. First, we will note on the resolutions passed by each of the 3 general committees. Then we will take the supplementary items that were sent to the committees. We will now consider the draft declaration. If there is an objection to a paragraph, only the following may speak. First, 1 speaker against the paragraph. Second, 1 speaker in favor. Third, the rapporteur or the chair of the committee. Draft declaration, first committee. We will now take the preamble and paragraphs 1 to 51 of the draft declaration. Does anyone want a separate vote on any of the paragraph 1 to 51? Yes, I have noticed here that Mr. Asay Guliev from Azerbaijan have requested the floor. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to ask you to take paragraph 26 to the separate vote. The reason I am asking is that this paragraph unfortunately contains unfounded allegations against Azerbaijan, as if Azerbaijan needs to withdraw its so-called military forces from the territory of Armenia. This is really unfounded, and it brings very, very harsh and baseless language to the Vancouver Declaration that needs to be taken out. Secondly, it very heavily damaged on the credibility of our assembly that could play a positive role in bringing sides together for achieving peace and reconciliation in the region. Third is, unfortunately, if we go with that paragraph, it will feed reverse circles in Armenia, so that the hatred speech and the hatred attitude in Armenia will be prevailed. For that reason, dear colleagues, I would like to kindly ask you not to vote for paragraph 26 and to defeat this paragraph and to remove this paragraph from the Declaration of Vancouver. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Asay-Guliev. I would also add here that it's 1 minute in favor, 1 minute against, those who want to speak against, and then it's 1 minute for the rapporteur or the chair. And please turn on the watch on the screen so it's easy for everybody to see. And now I will ask if there is So, back to the agenda. A separate vote has been requested on paragraph 26 by Mr. Guliev. First, does the Assembly agree to all the paragraphs in the text up to that point, number 1 to 25? Raise your cards, please. Thank you. You may take down your card. Any objections against paragraph 1 to 25? Raise your cards if objections. 1. No objections. Any abstention? No. Then paragraph 1 to 25 is agreed. And we do now come to paragraph 26. And thank you. And does anyone wish to speak in favor of the paragraph? Yes, I have noticed that the head of the Armenian delegation, Mr. Harjiani, wants to speak in favor of the paragraph. You have the floor for 1 minute, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, this paragraph, first of all, welcomes the diplomatic efforts of the United States and the European Union in facilitating dialogue and confidence building between Armenia and Azerbaijan. I think it is important to record this in the Vancouver Declaration. Secondly, it records and calls for two facts on the ground: safe movement along the Lachin corridor and withdrawal of Azerbaijani illegal military forces from the the sovereign territory of the Republic of Armenia. Facts that have been recorded and addressed by the European Parliament, by the United States State Department, and the European External Action Service for multiple times. I ask the Assembly to keep the paragraph in the text of the Vancouver Declaration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arjani, head of the Armenian delegation. I will now give the floor to the rapporteur of the committee. Mr. Larinias, the floor is yours, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, my proposal and wording was different, but the committee voted in favor of amendments, so I'm saying what just for you to decide.
Thank you, Mr. Rapporteur. We will now vote on the paragraph. May I ask those of you who are in favor of keeping the paragraph, raise your voting card, please. Keep your cards because it's counting. No. May I ask those against the... You can take down your cards. Thank you very much. May I ask those who vote against the paragraph, who wants to delete it, please raise your cards and hold them up. And you may take down your voting cards. Thank you. Any abstentions? Please raise your card. 3, 4. Thank you very much. I find that the paragraph is agreed. And now I ask if the Assembly agree to all the paragraphs after paragraph 26 up to paragraph number 51. Any objections? No. Oh, Mr. Cools from Latvia have requested the floor. The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, Madam President. On the procedure, we just voted on 26, so why to vote again on 26 till whatever article? Because otherwise, I mean, I was against 26, so now, by that logic, I have to vote against all what you propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coles, for being very kind. Number 26 is agreed. Number 27 to 51. Are there any objections? No. The paragraphs 27 to 51 are agreed. Thank you. Now, move further on to the draft declaration of the second committee. We will now take paragraph 52 to 122 of the draft declaration. Does anyone want a separate vote on any of these paragraphs? Please raise your hands now. No, I don't see that anyone have requested the floor. So now we will take the paragraphs 52 to 122 together. Any objections? No. Thank you. Paragraph 52 to 122 are agreed. Move further on. Draft declaration for the third committee. We will now take paragraph 123 to 187 of the draft declaration. Does anyone want a separate vote on any of these paragraphs? Please ask for the floor. Yes, I don't really see the... No, no one asked for the floor. So we will take the paragraph 123 to 187 together. Any objections? No, thank you. Paragraph 123 to 187 are agreed to. Now we will continue to chapter 4 of the draft declaration on the OSCE and its institutional sustainability. We will now take paragraphs 188 to 203 of the draft declaration. Does anyone want a separate vote on any of those paragraphs? Please raise your hand. No, I don't see that anyone requests a separate vote. So we will take paragraph 188 and to 203 together. Any objections? I don't see so. Thank you. Paragraph 188 to 203 are agreed to. Thank you. We will now consider the supplementary items from the 3 general committees. In the plenary, we have already agreed to the supplementary items on OSCE and OSCE-PA credibility in the face of continued Russian aggression against Ukraine, and rising anti-Semitism in the OSCE region. And the third one, the gender consequences of armed conflict. So we will move straight to the next supplementary item. Thank you. The Wagner Group's terroristic nature and actions. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? Please raise your hand and note if you are against. I don't see so, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see so. Thank you. The resolution is agreed. Clarifying the consequences of Russia's aggression against Ukraine in terms of adherence to the OSCE principles. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? Otherwise, please give a sign. I don't see anybody against who have asked the floor. So we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objection to the resolution? No. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Further generation. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? Anybody who requests the floor? I don't see so. So we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objection to the resolution? No. The resolution is agreed. The Republic of Moldova. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor. So we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see so. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Greater exploitation of the potential of science diplomacy for international cooperation and active peace policy. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody giving a sign, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objection to the resolution? I don't see any objections. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. A structured set of rules for a regular performance audit of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see any objections. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Microplastic and nanoplastic pollution. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor. So we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see so. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Adopting effective mechanisms to safeguard Ukrainian women and children from abuse, exploitation, and human trafficking. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see any requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see so. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Condemnation of the desecration of police graves in Belarus. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see so. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Support of a democratic Belarus. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see any objections. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. The consequences of Russia's aggression against Ukraine with regard to women and children. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? No, I don't see. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. Penalizing deportation of Ukrainian children, prosecuting the perpetrators, and ensuring their return. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see any objections. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. The role of national parliaments in enhancing participation of civil society in parliamentary and decision-making processes. Is the Assembly content to consider the resolution as a whole? I don't see anybody requesting the floor, so we will take the resolution as a whole. Any objections to the resolution? I don't see any objections. Thank you. The resolution is agreed to. And now, final vote on the Vancouver Declaration. We will consider the Vancouver Declaration as amended and decided as a whole. Is there any objection to the Vancouver Declaration as a whole? Any objections? And any abstentions first? No, I said objections, please. It's any objections. It was 2 who raised their cards. And then I would like to say, is there any abstention? 1. I find that there is a majority to adopt the Vancouver Declaration. And by this, the Vancouver Declaration is adopted. And that concludes our proceeding of the declaration. I would like to say thank you to all of you for your hard and dedicated work in preparation, in the committees, and here in the plenary. Thank you very much. And now we will return to the open general debate. It will continue. And 1 second, and I will get the speakers list. And now the first speaker on my list is Ms. Lilith Galstian from Armenia. She will be followed by Ms. Mirguel Temirbarve from Kyrgyzstan. Ms. Lilith Galstian, the floor is yours, madam.
I have already spoke, dear President. Thank you.
Thank you. You have already spoken. Thank you for telling me that. Good. Then I said that the next speaker is Ms. Lilith Galstian from Armenia. She will be followed. She had spoken too, but what's this? 1 second. I will return to the speakers list. Wait a few minutes. Thank you. So let's continue on the speakers list. And now I would give the floor to Mr. Sargis Kadanyan from Armenia. He will be followed by Miss Rupa Ook from United Kingdom. Mr. Sargis Kadanyan, the floor is yours, sir.
Madam President, I believe that the future of the South Caucasus region can be peaceful and stable if all the countries in the region can find a formula for coexistence. This formula will help us to secure and to protect our independence, sovereignty, and democracy. Armenian government received a strong mandate from its people to bring peace to my country and make the era of peaceful coexistence for the future generations possible. This is the reason that Armenia is constructively engaged in peace negotiations with Azerbaijan. Needless to say that seeking peace with the neighbors is not a one-sided process. Both sides of the process must be committed to it. Unfortunately, the constructive approach of Armenia is often not being met with the similar position of Azerbaijan, and I want to thank the Assembly for its positions in Vancouver Declaration. As I said, we need to find a formula for coexistence with all our neighbors, and here I want to underline the importance of the normalization process of the relations between Armenia and Turkey. Armenia has done several positive steps throughout this process, showing its sincere devotion to the normalizing the relations between the two countries without preconditions. We hope that Turkey too will spend more efforts and will show more commitment towards it so we can have positive results in the nearest future. There is no alternative to peace in our region, and facing all difficulties and complications, we will continue the political path of peace. Dear colleagues, I believe we can continue this conversation on regional peace, security and cooperation in our upcoming autumn meeting in Armenia, and I am delighted to invite you all to my country. I hope we will have less hostilities and destruction in the OSCE region by then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sargis Kandanyan. Next speaker is Ms. Rupa Uku from United Kingdom. I apologize for bad pronunciation. She will be followed by Mr. Björn Söder from Sweden. Ms. Rupa Uku, the floor is yours, madam.
It'd be tempting to write off the OSCE in the failure of Russia's unprovoked illegal war in Ukraine as a failure. But among reasons to be cheerful is the efficacy of its election observation role, which upholds core values of democracy, rule of law, and freedom of speech. Having served myself on missions in the ex-Soviet republics, the US, and Turkey twice, I must praise Andreas and his team for the excellent grounding we get in legal, political, and media. The OSCE is rightly seen as the gold standard of organisations who do this, but we could go further, supplementing those briefings on broadcast and print with stuff on social media and influencers, and review the questionnaire itself, a blunt methodological tool, to allow more nuance, rather than just the zeros and ones of quantitative coding. We also need a rethink in the face of cyber threats and AI and electronic voting. The word in the US, a USB stick contained all the data, invalidating the need to observe counting. So many questions remain. Should only countries of concern be scrutinized? What effect will Russia's withdrawal of funds have? Is it just coincidence that the acronym "Oh dear" sounds like an English expression of exasperation? The word crisis is overused, and none of our nations is perfect. But on a day of OSCE elections, let's celebrate one thing we do well, monitoring elections without resting on our laurels. With fresh leadership today, let us face the future with renewed resolve to address the big challenges: Ukraine, Nagorno-Karabakh, climate emergency, energy emergency, with renewed vigor to stop the OSCE ossifying into a pointless, toothless, rudderless irrelevance.
Thank you, Ms. Rupa Uku. Next speaker is Mr. Björn Söder from Sweden. He will be followed by Ms. Amanda Spiteri from Malta. Mr. Björn Söder, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. The OSCE works on the belief that peace and security in our region will benefit our participating states in creating humanitarian, economically stronger societies. As parliamentarians, one of our most important tools is the interparliamentary dialogue that we are able to conduct in the OSCE's forums. Through dialogue, we find both compromises and solutions to the problems we face. In the shadows of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, there are fortunately other still ongoing conflicts in the OSCE area. For too long, the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh has been ongoing. As the conflict continues, we must not forget the immense human suffering that happens as a cause of the dispute. The Lachin corridor has served as a last connection between Nagorno-Karabakh and the outside world, supplying the inhabitants in the region with essential food, energy, and medical supplies. However, as unrest plagues the area, we get reports on how delivery of resources risk not reaching Nagorno-Karabakh. This leads to immense human suffering and incapacitates the people to exercise their rights to decent standard of living and freedom of movement. I want to circle back to what I mentioned earlier. Interparliamentary dialogue is one of the most important tools we have to resolve international disputes. In order to find a solution to the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, it is important that Armenia and Azerbaijan work together to find mutually acceptable solutions. Solutions on which Armenia and Azerbaijan both mutually can support will help prevent further manifestation of hatred and enmity. I believe that the OCPA can serve as a platform from which the discussion focused on the solutions can start to take root. Because we must not forget the immense humanitarian crisis the conflict results in. As the dispute continues without a resolve, the people of Nagorno-Karabakh get trapped in the crossfire. As parliamentarians who stand up for the values this organization embraces, we must all work to ensure that the human rights of the people in Nagorno-Karabakh are secured. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Björn Söder. Next speaker on my list is Ms. Amanda Spiteri-Grek from Malta. She will be followed by Mr. Radoslav Fogel from Poland. Ms. Amanda Spiteri-Grek, the floor is yours, madam.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I think there was a misunderstanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then I will give the floor to Mr. Radoslav Fogel from Poland. He will be followed by Ms. Miguel Temipareva from Kyrgyzstan. Mr. Radoslav Fogel, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Let me start by thanking our host and the whole Canadian delegation for preparing this session. As we are slowly approaching the end of this session, I'd like to share some remarks with all of you. We've done a decent job during the last few days. During plenary and in the committees, we've heard the reports and discussed several important resolutions, including the ones regarding democracy in Belarus, the war waged against Ukraine, and the credibility of this body. We are at crossroads, facing internal challenges when it comes to membership fees or the upcoming OEC presidency. Our work and debates are overshadowed by the war of aggression against Ukraine for over a year now, and rightly so, as this is the most important and pressing issue at hand. And as we may be discussing different aspects and angles of the war, my main concern is its end. I want the bombs to stop falling. I want the rapes of women and children, regardless of their gender, committed by Russian soldiers to stop. And yet we still failed to execute what's necessary to isolate the representatives of the murderous regime. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that whether it's global peace and stability that is under threat, or functioning, maybe even the very existence of this assembly, there's one common denominator, and it's Russia. And I leave you with this thought, hoping that everyone, including the presidency that we will be electing today, draws the right conclusions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Radoslav Fogel. Next speaker is Ms. Miguel Temirbaeva from Kyrgyzstan. She will be followed by Ms. Pavlo Frolov from Ukraine. Ms. Miguel Temirbaeva, the floor is yours, madam.
Спасибо, уважаемая госпожа председатель. Уважаемые коллеги, позвольте от имени делегации Жогорку Кеңеша Кыргызской Республики поприветствовать всех вас на летней сессии Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ. Мы придаем большое значение нашему сотрудничеству и в рамках партнерства с ОБСЕ как один из эффективных механизмов продвижения правозащитной тематики в стране, Кыргызстан продолжает совершенствовать и укреплять условия для установления действенной платформы для равноправного диалога и сотрудничества с гражданским обществом. Со своей стороны считаю, что за этот период было сделано немало, но надо признать, что могло быть сделано больше. Однако полученный за эти годы опыт и знания позволили значительно повысить потенциал института парламентаризма в стране, укрепили нас в отстаивании общих ценностей прав человека, демократии и верховенства прав. Кыргызская республика привержена целям и принципам, провозглашенным в Уставе ООН и Всеобщей декларации прав человека, поддерживает универсальный характер прав человека и их применение на равной, недискриминационной и неизбирательной основе. На сегодняшний день Кыргызская республика является участником 8 из 9 основных универсальных договоров по правам человека. Мы осуществляем конструктивное сотрудничество со специальными процедурами ООН. В Кыргызской республике созданы все необходимые условия для дальнейшего развития гражданского общества. В стране действует более 6 тысяч активных, главное, независимых, неправительственных организаций, правозащитники, Институт омбудсмена, Национальный центр по предупреждению пыток и многочисленные международные агентства. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, madam. Next speaker is Mr. Pablo Frolov from Ukraine. He will be followed by Mr. Antonio Gomez Reynor from Spain. Mr. Pablo Frolov, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is very endangering. Russian occupation of Europe's largest nuclear power facility poses an immediate threat. If a nuclear accident happens, about 1 billion people in 40 countries may be affected. No one has the right to blackmail the world with a radioactive disaster. However, in front of the eyes of the whole world, Russia has turned our Zaporizhzhia NPP into a radioactive bomb that can explode at any moment. We should consider as criminal even a hypothetical possibility of such awful scenario. Radiation safety must be restored. Russia must immediately withdraw all its militants from the NPP. The station must be immediately transferred to the control of the IAEA and Ukrainian personnel. We must use all our power to force Russia to abandon any threats with nuclear weapons. Due to this, I have to remind you that radiation and nuclear safety is the first of the 10 points of President Zelensky's peace formula. I must remind you of all the other points: food security, energy security, release of all prisoners and deported persons, implementation of the UN Charter, and restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and the world order, withdrawal of Russian troops and cessation of hostilities, restoration of justice, countering ecocide, preventing escalation, and finally, confirmation of the end of the war. Personally, I want to add the nuclear disarmament of Russia. Each OSCE member state can join to its implementation with a specific contribution and become a co-creator of the victory of democracy over terrorist state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pablo Frolov. Next speaker is Mr. Antonio Gomez Reynor from Spain. He will be followed by Mr. Radovan Kovacevic from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Mr. Antonio Gomez Reynor, the floor is yours, sir.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Probablemente esta es mi última intervención como participante de esta asamblea parlamentaria y, en primer lugar, quería agradecerles a todos el trabajo, especialmente a aquellos que se afanan en trabajar por el diálogo, por la construcción de democracia y de paz, que es la tarea fundamental que tiene esta organización y no otras. Y en ese sentido, un poco recogiendo algunas de las cuestiones de los debates de estos días, sí quería poner encima de la mesa un elemento que es el doble rasero que a veces empleamos en algunas de las discusiones y creo que no facilita, digamos, el papel de esta organización y, sobre todo, que tengamos debates francos y constructivos y que nos dote de más de legitimidad esos debates. Y lo digo, por ejemplo, al respecto de algunos debates. Tuvimos un debate sobre el grupo Wagner, ¿no? Un grupo evidentemente vinculado estrictamente con el gobierno ruso y que, por lo tanto, hay que combatir en toda medida y que de alguna forma es evidente que se utiliza, se ha utilizado por el gobierno ruso, digamos, para sus intereses geopolíticos y que, ya digo, tenemos que acabar con esa dinámica. El problema es que lo que hemos visto con el grupo Wagner también lo hemos visto con otros grupos de mercenarios o grupos militares privados, como puede ser Blackwater, como puede ser Triple Canopy, como puede ser Garda World, que son exactamente igual de peligrosos y que, en definitiva, creo que también tenemos que poner encima de la mesa y combatir. Por lo tanto, creo que es importante bueno, que evitemos el riesgo que significa para la paz en determinadas zonas y para la paz global todos estos grupos paramilitares o grupos militares privados que en muchos casos campan a sus anchas, como el grupo Wagner, pero también como otros que he dicho. Y para cerrar ya, otra cuestión también de doble rasero, pues bueno, creo que es evidente y es magnífico el report que se ha sacado al respecto de cómo hay que combatir el antisemitismo, pero también quiero poner encima de la mesa que una asamblea como esta tiene que estar preocupada por lo que sucede en Oriente Medio y hoy mismo en Jenin y en Palestina. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez Remo. Next speaker is Mr. Radovan Kovacevic from Bosnia-Herzegovina. He will be followed by Mr. Tural Ganjaliev from Azerbaijan. Mr. Radovan Kovacevic, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, this is the perfect forum to express our gratefulness for all the hard work, commitment, energy and finances dedicated from the OSCE to Bosnia and Herzegovina at all the levels of the governance established by the Dayton Peace Agreement and the Constitution of BIH. Bosnia and Herzegovina, the region and the world need the presence of the OSCE. This attention is good and fruitful when it is being given in the form of advice and respect, but not imposition. Constructive dialogue, compromise and cooperation. This should be the focus of improving the current situation in BIH. This can be achieved only through the active engagement, dialogue and compromise of the political leaders, decision makers and stakeholders from BIH. Bosnia and Herzegovina is peaceful, but it is politically unstable due to interventions of foreign factors on its political scene. Those foreign factors and them only create cleavages, obstructions and blockades of both reform and development processes. We simply cannot accept that a sovereign country, a candidate for the EU full membership in the 21st century, in the heart of Europe, still has a foreign protectorate in the form of the so-called High Representative, the illegal one and not confirmed in accordance to the procedures, who acts as a self-declared king, completely ignoring the official procedures, the Constitution of BIH and the Dayton Peace Agreement. We also have foreign judges in our constitutional court which continually abuse the power and create unconstitutional court that completely lost the trust of the public opinion and of legally and lawfully elected political leaders in BIH. I come from Republic of Srpska, one of two entities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We've been criticized all the time, but I can assure you that all we are doing is fighting an institutional, democratic, legal and peaceful fight for protection of our constitutional rights and constitutional order in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We ask for the assistance of the OSCE and all of you. We need your help in becoming truly sovereign with our destiny in our hands. So please help us get rid of the so-called High Representative and the foreign judges in our constitutional court. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Radovan Kovacevic. Next speaker is Mr. Tural Ganjaliev from Azerbaijan. He will be followed by Mr. Stefan Demili from France. Mr. Tural Ganjaliev, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, we do not and nobody should accept criticism on human rights from Armenia, the country that bears full responsibility for unleashing the war and perpetrating aggression against Azerbaijan, which has a solid track of human rights violation at home and internationally, carried out ethnic cleansing on a massive scale, committing other heinous crimes during the conflict, advocating undisguised racist ideology. So indeed, Armenia is the last country to criticize the neighboring countries and lecture them on the issues pertaining to human rights. Je voudrais aussi attirer votre attention, chers collègues, à la protection des droits des Azerbaïdjanais expulsés de l'actuelle Arménie. Le droit au retour pacifique, digne et sûr d'environ 300 000 Azerbaïdjanais qui ont été expulsés d'Arménie à la fin des années 1980 doit être rétabli. L'expulsion des Azerbaïdjanais d'Arménie, guidée par une idéologie raciste et une politique de nettoyage ethnique, a été menée de manière particulièrement impitoyable. Des centaines de personnes ont été brutalement tuées, les biens des personnes expulsées ont été saisis, tandis que le patrimoine historique et culturel azerbaïdjanais était systématiquement et délibérément éradiqué. Dear colleagues, at the end of my speech, on behalf of the Azerbaijani delegation, I would like to say the following, that the delegation of Azerbaijan is not in the position to support the Vancouver Declaration and disassociates itself from it. It will have no effect on the position of Azerbaijan and will only harm the peace process. It will also negatively affect our resolve to use the Assembly as a platform to build confidence and trust at the parliamentary level. I thank you very much. Je voudrais remercier vous tous. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Tural Ganyeliev. Next speaker and the final is Mr. Stéphane Demilly from France. The floor is yours, sir. No.
Monsieur Stéphane Demilly n'est pas là, mais je suis Valérie Boyer. Je vais prendre la parole à sa place pour vous dire combien nous soutenons cette déclaration. Et moi, je me réjouis que nous soutenions l'Arménie dans nos déclarations. On ne peut pas avoir deux poids, deux mesures. Quand un pays de l'OSCE attaque un autre pays de l'OSCE, nous avons mis en place une procédure particulière contre la Russie. Il serait un minimum pour la dignité et la cohérence de notre organisation que nous fassions de même pour pouvoir soutenir l'Arménie. Je vous rappelle que nous allons tous aller à Vancouver, à Yerevan dans quelques mois. Et la moindre des choses, c'est d'éviter que notre Assemblée fasse deux poids, deux mesures et soit cohérente avec ses principes.
Thank you, Mr. Stéphane Demilly. So, then is the open general debate ended. Thank you very much. And we move further on the agenda to number 4, video address by the Chairman in Office of the OSCE and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Bujar Osmani. And please turn on the video message. Thank you.
President Sederfeld, Secretary General Montella, honorable members of Parliament, Excellencies, colleagues, friends. At the outset, let me thank the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly for inviting me to its annual session. I regret not having been able to be there with you in person in Vancouver and engage in productive discussions and experience the hospitality of our Canadian friends. However, I'm glad to join all of you online. Almost 300 parliamentarians representing more than 1 billion people across the OSCE area. You constitute the democratic backbone of our organization, and I'm grateful for all your work and your support. When I think about the OSCE PA, one word above all comes to my mind: engagement. As OSCE Chairman in Office, I strongly appreciate the dedicated work of the various bodies of the PA, including its committees, its special representatives, various networks and initiatives, and naturally the political steering by the leadership, a true champion of OSCE principles and commitments. As I also noted during your winter meeting in February, parliamentary governmental cooperation within the OSCE is crucial. As parliamentarians, you have 4 important assets. You can bring the OSCE in each of your parliaments, translating international commitments into national legislation. 2, by being the direct representatives of people, you can bring important instances for the lives of people to the OSCE's attention. 3, you can engage in parliamentary diplomacy. Dialogue among legislators of different countries is a too often underestimated political tool, which we should invest more upon. And 4, you can foster the political will we need to overcome existing challenges, including by adequately funding the OSCE. Dear friends, there is one common denominator in all our efforts: people. Not by chance we chose as this year's chairpersonship motto, "It's about people." For them we work, for them only. And this is why we need to invest together in the OSCE and multiply the benefits we can bring to our people if we cooperate effectively. Honorable parliamentarians, this OSCE PA annual session comes at a very challenging time for security and cooperation, the key words of our organization. Russian Federation's war of aggression against Ukraine continues to shatter the basic principles of the OSCE. Yet, we need to preserve its functions, its tools, its capacity, now more than ever. As chairpersonship in office, this is our endeavor. Uphold our commitments, preserve the functionality of the organization, and seek avenues to restore a meaningful dialogue. However, we will not compromise on our principles. We will not compromise on the Helsinki Final Act. Meaningful dialogue can only be in line with those principles and with international law. In this regard, we urge the Russian Federation to an immediate ceasefire. We stand united by Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in their suffering and resolutely condemn Russian war crimes and atrocities. While the war against Ukraine remains our first priority, we also keep high on our agenda our protracted conflicts and regional instabilities across the OSCE area, which are almost impacting the lives of people. It is of great importance to engage the OSCE's unique toolbox and its capacities in order to support peace and cooperation. Therefore, as I stated at the Chairpersonship Security Review Conference that took place in Vienna last week, we will continue working towards incremental progress within the protracted conflict formats and incite positive dynamics across regions. Our chairpersonship has offered our good offices to the sides of the Transnistrian settlement process, expressed readiness to share our experience of reconciliation, trust building, and regional cooperation to the countries of South Caucasus, where positive developments continue to alternate with worrisome setbacks. And will continue our engagement with the countries from Central Asia, searching for pockets of cooperation within the sphere of second dimension, connectivity and youth, keeping them closer to Vienna. Finally, in our own Southeast European region, we are working on trust building, anti-corruption, and resilience to climate change as unifying areas for cooperation. Responding to recent tension in Kosovo, I presented a CIO roadmap for de-escalation and further normalization. I believe that as a CIO from the region, it is important to present our vision for a way out, aiming at overcoming difficulties. This is also a manifestation of the OSCE's relevance. Dear friends, time does not allow me now to elaborate on our thematic initiatives across all three dimensions. Let me just say that with the OSCE PA, we have many synergies and more can be built. The work of the OSCE and of the OSCE PA are not two separate things, but we go hand in hand as the end product is ultimately one. This is why I am very grateful for the excellent cooperation we enjoy. In this regard, let me once again pay a word of appreciation for President Margareta Sederfeld as she ends her mandate, and wish the very best to whoever will be voted as her successor today. Together with Task Force in Skopje and the mission in Vienna, I look forward to cooperating with you from this very moment. Thank you also to Secretary General Roberto Montella and his able team at the PA, International Secretariat. I'm grateful for your experience, dedication, and unwavering support to the OSCE. Honorable members of Parliament, in conclusion, I'm confident you had through and fruitful deliberations in these days. I will repeat it again. The OSCE needs now more than ever your political commitment, your steering initiatives. Thank you for your work, and I look forward to receiving the declarations and resolutions you adopt today in the coming days. They will be important also in the run-up to the Skopje OSCE Ministerial Council. Thank you very much.
So, and I would say, even if it's recorded on video message, thank you to the chairperson in office, Mr. Buja Osmani. And I would also like to say that it's very important, just as Mr. Osmani said, that we have a good relation and we continue to cooperate with OSCE governmental side. And now I will close number 4. And before going to number 5, you have just as well as I seen that there is a box brought in here to the room, and we are all parliamentarians and we have all voted, and I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. So I will give the floor to the chief teller, and we will after that continue on the list. So I say, please don't leave the assembly until the meeting is closed of the 30th annual session. But I can see that if I don't let the teller have the floor, you will be it will be a mess inside here. So by this, we take a break here and goes to the number 9 with the election result. I give the floor to Chief Teller Peter Juul Jensen. The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. And for those of you who think democracy is boring, I can say it is not. I now have the results for the first round, and with 70 votes, it goes to Mark Pritchard, Per John Pons 65, and Pia Kauma 65. That means we're going in a second round, but candidate number 2 and 3 have the same number of votes, so we have to make a draw between Pons and Kauma. I would like to see Pons and Kauma up here so they can be first-hand eyewitnesses, and I would like the president to draw the ballot up of the box. And I also need to say there were 2 blanks.
Explain that we have 2 ballots.
Yes, yes. In the box, we have 2 ballots. Please come up here. And we have a ballot saying Pia Kauma, and we have a ballot saying Pierre Pons. I'll fold them exactly the same way, put them in the big box, and then the president will draw who is going to have a second run against Mark Pritchard.
Where is Pons?
Pons? Are you in the room? Yes. Madam President, the honor is all yours. Please stay so you can look here. Yes. Yes. And it is going to be Pia Kauma who is attending the second round. So the second round is between Mark Pritchard and Pia Kauma. Pons, thank you very much. Would you like to say a couple of words? Just a few words, please.
So, thank you, Madam President, first of all, for giving me the floor. And I only have one thing to say, is thank you to all of the members of the Parliament who were able to exchange with me a lot of feedback. It was very fruitful, and I feel that I learned a lot from this assembly. And of course, either Mark Pritchard wins, either Pia Kauma wins, I will be behind them. That's all. And I think the most important thing is that this assembly is united. So thank you very much for everything.
I would just like to say, before I give the floor to the Chief Teller, thank you, Mr. Per John Pons. And now I give the floor to Chief Teller Peter Juul Jensen.
So now we're going to have a second round. My staff will just need 5 minutes, so if we start voting, you can start voting at 11:15, and then for 30 minutes. And we will close the doors at exactly 11:45. So I hope you can put this into your program. Voting starts at 11:15, ends at 11:45. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Teller. Now there will be a second round. The second round will open 15 minutes past 11. I will give the floor to the director, or we will go back to our agenda, to number 5. And I will give the floor to the Director of OSCE Office of Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, ODIHR, Mr. Matteo Macacci. The floor is yours.
Okay, yes, you can hear me now. Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. As many of you have been observing many elections over the year, but I never encountered when, to get to the second round, you had to draw a lot. So this is something maybe we can add in our experience as election observers throughout the OSCE. But dear members of parliament, dear friends, excellencies, it's indeed a great pleasure to be here with you today in Vancouver to attend the 30th annual session at such a critical time and of historical importance indeed. My thanks, of course, go to President Margarita Satterfield, to Secretary General Montella and his staff for this invitation and for the opportunity to recall the importance of the human dimension and that this must continue to play within the OSCE, including through the advancement of the strong cooperation that we have already between the OSCPA and ODIHR. And as a former member of this assembly, it's also a very special pleasure to be here and be hosted by my dear friend, former colleague Heidi Fry, the head of the Canadian delegation. And thank you once again for the hospitality, but also for your very, very strong leadership over so many years within the OSCPA. So thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 16 months since the war in Ukraine began, and it is the impact of this war is plain for all of us to see, not just on the global security architecture, but also on the lives of many thousands of civilians who have been killed, injured, or forced to flee. In these tragic circumstances, I remain convinced that the prominence that human rights and fundamental freedoms have in creating sustainable peace and security. It is when fundamental freedoms and human rights are restricted or violated, the democratic standards and institutions are undermined. It is when civil society voices are constrained, the security becomes fragile and our society suffers. The OSCE, and particularly ODIHR, stands for the belief in the vital role of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, as reaffirmed through our commitments over the last decades. And from here, from our human dimension, we need to shape our response to today's security challenges. Not only preserving, but indeed further strengthening the human dimension of the OSCE is therefore, in my view, the most important contribution we can make to peace and security in our region. And let me be very clear. These efforts need to be first and foremost towards ensuring full accountability for any human rights violations at the national as well as the international level as the basis for ensuring justice and preventing further violence, as we are seeing as a consequence of Russia's military attack in Ukraine. But at the same time, to truly advance the human dimension of the OSCE, we must find the courage to recommit to genuine and effective dialogue. Dialogue has always been at the heart of the OSCE as an organization and for the values it personifies. As a multilateral platform, the OSCE has brought together countries with systems of governments and security priorities that were very different from each other. And these created lasting bonds through the binding political commitment that each of these countries have made over the years. The OSCE has offered hope and aspiration to the 1.3 billion people of our region for almost 50 years now, as visions of peace and tolerance endured, even if when times were grim, and the sound of words and heated discussion was replaced by the sound of the barrels of the guns. As we witness a new tragedy of war today, I believe we cannot afford to lose those hopes and aspirations that were laid out in the Helsinki Final Act in 1975. We cannot allow that military actions will become the preferred choice for resolving political and geopolitical issues. So, while continuing to call for a stop to the violation of these commitments and of international law, we need to continue to work towards multilateral engagements as the only sustainable path towards improving the situation today and the best solution to our global challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, ODIHR works resolutely in this direction, advancing its mandate and supporting OSCE countries through open dialogue in moving towards resilient democracies based on human rights. We have been doing this for more than 3 decades now, including by raising concerns and warning about weakening human rights protections or repression of civil society organizations and human rights defenders, including ahead of today's war in Ukraine. Many of you are familiar with the numerous initiatives and activities that ODIHR has put in place since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. For example, our human rights monitoring reports, the third of which will be published later this month. Our assistance to the Ukrainian Parliament, and I greet also the colleagues from the Ukrainian Parliament in the room today, our support to the judiciary in Ukraine with targeted expertise on international human rights law, our training to assist the countries neighboring Ukraine in combating human trafficking, our support to human rights defenders who are working in and on Ukraine. And I could continue. But we are also well aware that there are 57 countries in the OSCE, and none of them is a perfect democracy. With this in mind, we therefore continue to support countries across the region. And indeed, our mandate and approach to the human dimension, when governments and civil society are willing and able to engage, is holistic and includes the many different aspects that makes our society more free, inclusive, and just. One way in which we do this is through, as you know, our election observation activities and our election reform assistance to achieve open competition between genuine alternative political offers, often together with you at the Parliamentary Assembly. Democratic elections are key to the long-term security of the entire region, and we are grateful for your partnership in this vital work. Another important and growing area of this work are our legal opinions, which feed into key reform processes. Then there are the capacity building that we provide, for example, to police and prosecutors to help them better uphold the fundamental rights of every individual, including minorities and migrants. There is our promotion of gender equality and women's leadership, and our work to combat hate crime, which so often, unfortunately, targets those who are most vulnerable in our societies, as well our support to human rights defenders and their advocacy at times of increasing pressure that we see happening across the OSCE region. Ladies and gentlemen, all fundamental freedoms, human rights, and democratic principles are interrelated. If the support sustaining one falls, the chances are that others will follow. And the risks to democracy and human rights of today become the security risks of tomorrow. But while ODIHR continues to deliver, the constraints we are facing are substantial. As we navigate the third consecutive year without an approved budget by the OSCE, working on monthly allotments of zero nominal growth budget, our ability to ensure the continuation of our activities and to respond in a positive and constructive way to requests of assistance has been put under severe strain. This will become even more apparent in the coming weeks, and I would like this to share with you because this could have an impact also in our cooperation with the Parliamentary Assembly. In fact, in around 10 days, I expect that we will have to go to Vienna with a request for additional financial resources from participating states to support our work for observing the elections in the remainder of 2023. And although we have to make such requests in the past, they have never been needed so early in the year. We are basically half the year in 2023. And this is putting a question mark over our ability to observe important upcoming elections in the OSCE region, namely in Poland and in Moldova. Eventually, we hope that consensus will be found and that additional financial resources will be made available to us by the end of July. But there are no certainties. Let me close by saying that against the background of these challenges to human rights and democracy, as well to our ability to function as an organization, ODIHR's close partnership with the OICPA is indeed more important than ever. And this is why I am here physically today with you. I thank you once again for your attention and support, and I look forward to our continued cooperation and discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director Matteo Macacci. It's a true honor to have you here, that you have taken your time to travel all the way to Vancouver. And it shows that you are here. It's a clear sign about the good cooperation between OSCE and ODIHR, and we appreciate really very, very much that you are here, taking your time, and we look forward to further cooperation. Wish you all the best and success.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now, dear colleagues, the time is 11:19. I will take a short break, so we will start 11:30. Please be back. Tell your colleagues to come back, because then there will be the two final parts of the program, three final parts of the program. Secretary General will deliver his report. There will be a speech by Dr. Heidi Frey, and there will be a speech by me. And then we will get the final result. Let's take a break. Be back here 11:30, please. Thank you. So, dear colleagues, please take your seat. It's time to start. And now it's a little bit more than 11:30. And let's continue on the agenda. We come to number 6, report of Secretary General of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Mr. Roberto Montella, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. It's very unusual to make my report in this situation, but all right. Chers amis, chers collègues, je voulais commencer par dire un grand merci au Canada. Un grand merci au Canada pour votre hospitalité, pour l'organisation impeccable de cette session annuelle. Un grand merci à Eddie Fry. Eddie Fry, on est dans ta ville. Tu as pensé à faire cette rencontre il y a 4 ans. Covid nous a empêchés de la faire en 2020. Mais je voulais te remercier personnellement, Eddie, pour ton travail dans l'Assemblée parlementaire, pour les thèmes, les questions que tu as portées dans notre Assemblée historiquement. Tu es une figure iconique, comme je l'avais dit, dans notre Assemblée. Je te remercie personnellement parce que tu as vraiment créé ici une occasion pour toutes les délégations de se parler entre eux, de créer des relations entre eux. C'est l'esprit de l'Assemblée parlementaire qui s'est vraiment développé entre nous dans ces jours qu'on a été ici à Vancouver, et aussi le temps nous a aidé beaucoup. Donc, merci beaucoup Eddie et merci beaucoup le Canada pour nous avoir hospité ici. Cette session a un grand succès organisatif, bien sûr, mais aussi un grand succès politique. Les membres se sont rencontrés dans les commissions, dans les plénaires. Vous avez adopté la déclaration de Vancouver. Dans cette déclaration, il y a les positions des représentants du peuple de l'Assemblée parlementaire, 1 million de citoyens que vous représentez, où les positions des parlementaires sont très claires sur des questions fondamentales comme la guerre que la Russie a portée contre l'Ukraine. Et je suis très content et je suis très fier du travail que vous avez fait. Nos positions sont sans ambiguïté de 2014, de la résolution de Ben Cardin à Bakou, où on a dit qu'il y a eu des clear, gross, uncorrected violations of the Helsinki Final Act. On a dit quel est le pays qui l'a fait, la Russie, contre l'Ukraine. Et ça me rend très fier qu'ici, à l'Assemblée parlementaire, on peut dire les choses comme elles sont. Et ça, c'est un acquis qu'il faut conserver. Today is the 4th of July. I would like to wish happy Independence Day to our American colleagues. And I would like to also stress and underscore my personal appreciation for the very constructive role that the US delegation has played in this assembly. They have expressed and displayed a very strong leadership, of course, on leading us in strong positions, the ones I referred of Ben Cardin's resolution, but also Roger Wicker's statement that was voted in Vienna at our winter meeting. I think it put our assembly at the high level of politics when we come to the positions of this assembly. Thank you also very much to Congressman Hudson for his constructive role also in helping us also clear the ground of some challenges we've had after the winter meeting in Vienna. And I really appreciate the constructive role that the Americans has played in putting us all together, in trying to bring us all together and focus on the real priorities of this assembly, which is the war and which is how the parliamentarians can use their capital to fight this. Today we elect a new leadership. I must say that the episode we just seen before also makes me think that a serious reform of our rules of procedure and the way we organize our system of electing or meeting has to be done. I think we shouldn't only talk about reform of the rules. I think we should have a reflection. The new bureau should do some reflections on what is the assembly we want, what kind of posture we want of the assembly, what is the tools that we want to adopt, more elections, less elections, more demarches, more conflict prevention activities. I think we should think a little bit again of our main goals And once we have that in mind, then have the rules follow that. And the rules will be able to service the priorities, the political strategies that the leadership, the political leadership of the Assembly has set. And of course, in these rules, there will be also a role for the Secretariat, which has to service the parliamentarians and accompany the implementation of the political priorities that you set in place. My responsibility, as you know, is to run the Secretariat, and I am very grateful to the Standing Committee for passing the budget. This was a very important issue for us, because without the budget we cannot function. So I thank the Standing Committee for its vision and leadership in passing a budget, which also includes an additional addendum to perform a business audit from the 1st of October. This is something very healthy for our Assembly. I have always prided myself for having been the one who has brought new rules and regulations, new financial rules and regulations, but I think an increased accountability and increased oversight of how the Secretariat conducts its affairs is extremely welcome, and I welcome the work of the auditor from the 1st of October, and its results will be presented at our winter meeting in February next year. A last word is also to thank the contributors to the budget of the OSCE. During my Standing Committee meeting, I actually made a mistake. I was mentioning that the Russian Federation has not paid its dues, which is true, but I mentioned that the Russian Federation is the second contributor. It is not. The second contributor is France, Italy, Germany, and the UK after the US, and then there is the Russian Federation. I just wanted to correct, because I kind of misinformed the Standing Committee last time. But of course, we have challenges without the contribution of the Russian Federation. The President and the Treasurer have authorized me to take from our reserves to cover for the missing part of the budget, but we will have to address this issue in a more structured way in the future. A word on the staff. The staff of the Parliamentary Assembly is the backbone of this organization. I am very proud of the staff we have. Gustavo Pagliares, Deputy Secretary General, is here, is the leader in making sure that this assembly took place. He's been here several times. Gustavo, my personal appreciation for you, for what you are doing for this assembly, for the years of dedication that you have given to this assembly, for the advice you give to me, which sometimes is very helpful, because sometimes I can be also a bit more impulsive. Gustavo is the one who tells me, look, calm down, think of the bigger picture. So thank you very much, Gustavo, for your friendship and your support in the work we do together in running this organization. But of course, the staff, as I said, is the backbone of the organization. You will have seen in my report. I would like to bring the staff also in a more, let's say, financial conditions more similar, professional conditions more similar to those of the OSCE governmental side and the UN. We are still very far behind that. I think we can fix this in the next 2-3 years, but I really count on the support of the new Treasurer and the Standing Committee to help work together with us, and eventually with the work and the outcome of the audit, to help us also give the adequate, let's say, conditions of employment for the staff of the Parliamentary Assembly. One note on the absence of the CIO and the Secretary General. I really regret this. I have worked for 10 years in the governmental side of the OSCE, and I have made it one of the trademark of my tenure here as Secretary General to improve the relationship with the OSCE. As you have seen with the ODIHR, with whom we had challenges in the past, the relationship is perfect. The relationship, of course, also with the Secretary General of the OSCE is excellent, with the chairmanship, but their absence here, however justified, is not a good sign. And I think, I hope the new president in the second part of the year will meet with the chairman in office, will meet with the Secretary General, and will try to kind of improve this relationship that is good, but the absence here is not a good sign, because I think the executive of the OSCE should be present when the representatives of the people of the OSCE meet, and they should interact with us more. And on a personal note, I'd like to conclude, Madam President. It's been very difficult years for me also on a personal level. These last 2 years with COVID, with the war the war waged by Russia against Ukraine, has made our work very difficult, has given us additional stress. I hope that this day, Independence Day, also marks the end of this very difficult period, and as many of you know I'm a very optimistic person, so I hope the best is yet to come for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General Roberto Montella. Now I will give the floor to the head of the Canadian delegation, Dr. Heidi Fry. The floor is yours, madam.
Thank you very much. And you are all here to celebrate Canada Day with us, and I want to wish a happy Independence Day to our American colleagues on their day today. As we await the election results, I want to express my best wishes to whomever is going to be our incoming president, vice presidents, and treasurer. I wish you success in your new roles. To all of those who put your names forward for leadership positions, including for committee officers, thank you for your commitment to our assembly. I also want to thank our outgoing president and now President Emeritus, Margareta Sederfeld, for your leadership, passion, and tireless work these past few years. You have been a champion for the Parliamentary Assembly, including for the role of women parliamentarians. You have inspired us all, Margareta, completely. We owe you a debt of gratitude for your efforts to build a stronger and more resilient OSCE-PA. At this annual session, we've agreed on important institutional changes, which include the creation of a new ad hoc committee on Ukraine and amendments to our rules of procedure to strengthen the place of women and minorities in this assembly. As a Vancouverite, I feel immense pride that the name of this beautiful city is now affixed to the declaration of the 2002 annual session. Composed of the resolutions of our committees and 16 supplementary items, the Vancouver Declaration is a sworn document that contains important recommendations to our governments and national parliaments, and I urge you to go back and speak about it at your national parliaments. Most notably, the Vancouver Declaration, you know what it says. It is a clear sense that we are viable, we are alive, we are well as a parliamentary assembly, and that we are going to take our place and push forward for changes. I want to thank our Ukrainian friends for your participation at this annual session and for your being strong advocates for your country and people. We stand united with you. Slava Ukraini. Finally, I want to thank all of the support staff who have worked so hard to make this annual session a resounding success. At the PA, and also to my team of devoted Canadian public servants, and I might say that they have really been passionate about this meeting, who have worked long hours to ensure that your time in Vancouver is an experience you will not forget. I also want to thank the OSCE-PA International Secretariat, including Secretary General Roberto Montella, for your assistance with all of the work that we had to do at the annual session. You have contributed greatly to its success. I wish you all a wonderful stay here in the city. I hope you stay. I hope you go and do interesting things. It's a beautiful city and a beautiful part of the world. And I look forward to seeing you all at our fall meeting. Thank you very much. I just wanted to quickly, before I leave, give a thank you to this Canadian Secretariat that have supported our delegates for this length of time. Mathieu, Brian, Anne-Marie, and Gregoire. They have worked like they were everywhere. They kept us on time. They made sure that as a delegation, we were able to deal with anything that came our way. Thank you, guys. Stand up. Let people see you. Come on. So goodbye, a great summer. Thank you for coming to our city. We love to have you back.
Thank you, Dr. Heidi Fry. And thank you for inviting us to your city. It's been a true pleasure to be here. Thank you to the city of Vancouver, and thank you to the Parliament of Canada for hosting us here. And we move further on the agenda. And
some decline from the order.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Dear colleagues, of course I'm joining those who congratulate the United States with their day. And once more, I'm very grateful to our hosts, to Canadians. But this symbol, this is a symbol only, is not for the United States, and this time even not for Canadians, but for Margareta. In the name of the EPP group, dear Margareta, dear President, dear leader, you know, take it not as some very beautiful flower, but as a symbol. This flower is a survival, you know. It survives disregard of all possible circumstances. It's about you, Margareta, because you got such a present as COVID, then war. You had to work under very, very difficult circumstances. And as you are a woman with values, you survived. And you did a great job, and I hope that all your initiatives will be continued by our next president. Thank you, Margareta. Tak.
Thank you, dear Vilja. I am not used to get flowers, but thank you very much. And now, our host, Dr. Heidi Frey, have made a speech, and it's just me who's staying behind you on the result. So I will take the opportunity immediately to go and say a few words. Thank you. Oh, I got the wrong page. Dear members of our CEPA, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a true honor for me to stand here today and say thank you to all of you for the support I got when I was elected as president the first time, the second, and I have felt it during my whole presidency. Thank you. But I would also like to say thank you to those colleagues who have left their positions in the Bureau. Let me start to say thank you to Vice President Mr. Askar Shakirov from Kazakhstan, also special representative of SDG. I must say I have really appreciated to work together with Mr. Askar Shakirov. He is an experienced politician, he is a former minister, he is a former diplomat. It has been a true honor to learn to know more about Kazakhstan and how to work further on. I would also like to say thank you to Vice President Pascal Alissard, whose mandate has run out. Vice President Pascal Alissard is from France. He has been chair of the Mediterranean Forum. He is chair of the Committee on Rules of Procedure. He is a man of honor. He has always stand up for our values, always ready to stand up for democracy, for us as parliamentarians. I think he is really a person that we owe a thank you. I would like to say thank you to Vice President Michael Link, who is not either running for re-election. Michael Link is from Germany. He has been head of ODIHR. He knows OSCE, out and in, the governmental side, the parliamentarian side. It has been a true honor to work together with him and learn from him and his perspective in a broad view. But I would also like to say thank you to Mr. Nicholas Samkarache from Georgia, who have been chairperson of the third committee. It's not an easy task, but you have done it with bravura. Thank you for this. And I would like to say thank you to Ms. Farah Karimi. I don't know if she is elected as treasurer or not, but I know that she ended her period as deputy chair of the third committee. And you have also been special representative on youth. Thank you for your engagement. It has really been wonderful because you are always positive, always full with ideas. Thank you. But I would also like to say thank you to our treasurer, Peter Juel Jensen. He is a man of honor. I can tell you, he has worked so hard to get the parliamentarians' view in the budget. And it has been a true pleasure to work with him. And when I say parliamentarian view, he has also worked together with the Secretariat in the most elegant way. And I think he has been a good asset to the Assembly with his work. But let me also thank, here is one man at the podium, Mr. Loic Paulin, the presidential advisor. I can assure you that he has worked days and nights, and it has been a true pleasure to work together with you. You know the rules, you are firm in your beliefs, and I have mostly listened to you, but you have said that I am very good on changing your speech. But I have tried to follow what you have written and what you suggest, because I know that you have a lot of skills and you know the organization and you are doing a great job. So I can say that the one who will continue after me, if Loic Paulin continue, will get the best advisor that's possible. But there is one more advisor I would like to thank, and this Mr. Jonathan Demner. You have seen the young man who is going with me almost everywhere. He is presidential advisor from the Swedish Parliament. And I would like to say thank you, Jonathan, for your energy, always being there. And I would also like to say thank you to the Swedish speaker, because when I was going to ask him, I have been nominated by my party group, can I run for president? And his immediately answer was, go for it. OSCE EPA is important, and it would be an honor for Sweden if you could be elected. So I am very pleased for the Swedish speaker. I think he deserves a thank you. But I would also like to say thank you to my family, because they have stand behind me all the time. And it's very often said, I have heard it so many times, behind every successful man, there is a woman. I must say, behind every successful woman, there is a man. And I'm so grateful for my husband, because, believe it or not, he have always advised me when I am packing my suitcase. He have always advised me what to say and what not to say. But also, I must say, when I'm leaving as president, I look forward to learn to know my 2 grandchildren I have received during my presidency. Let me also say a few words about the political work. It has been a true honor to be in this political assembly with all the knowledge, experience, and will. During my election campaign, both times, I got to, in my campaign, it was to increase, to empower the political side of the Assembly's work. I don't know if I have succeeded or not, but it has been in my will all the time. I did also talk about the democracy. I talked about influence of the whole Assembly, the whole OSCE region. These days, I don't say from one country in Far East. I say Ulaanbaatar to Vancouver. And I think it's important that we work together from the very eastern part to the very western part and the middle, because we are no stronger than the Assembly is as a whole. And I am so glad that there are delegates from the Central Asian countries who are taking part in the committee work, in the ad hoc committees, who are taking part in the debates, that we have been invited to take part. They have invited us to their countries. And this is something that has to continue. I see it as very important. I would also like to mention there is war in our region. There is, first, when I was elected, the Taliban take over in Afghanistan. They are still there. They are limiting the life of the Afghan people. They are also have an impact, particularly on our member countries in the eastern part. Let's continue to work to support democracy in Afghanistan, but also to support our members who are receiving refugees and have to tackle a difficult geographical situation. Then, I'm sure all of you, just as I, will never forget the 24th of February, when Mikita Potorayev arrived and said, the war has started. The war is still there, but I am grateful that we stand behind Ukraine, and we do so unanimously. We have done it the whole time, from the 24th until now, and it will continue regarding the Vancouver Declaration just adopted. And our support as an Assembly and as parliamentarians will be even stronger. But I would like to say one more thing about this. It's not only, you have heard it before, Ukraine's war. It's our war. We have to continue to support, because it's our values. If you remember, Maidan, it was when the Ukrainian people spoke out that they wanted to join European Union. That's when it started. Then it was the illegal occupation of Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk. And we say we didn't know about the war. Who could predict it? I think if we have had open eyes, if we would dare to see that we are people, we are optimistic, human beings to always look forward to something positive, but all the signs were there if we have been open-eyed. The Maidan, illegal annexation of Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, but also OSCE side, where the missions, SMM, were closed. It was the decision by Russia. You remember when Russia collected the troops around Ukraine, and they said it was just a military training that they were going to remove, to go away. We could see pictures on it. They are there, even more aggressive than before. The signs were there, but we are human beings, and we don't want to face the worst thing, the war. So we are also there now, supporting Ukraine, and we will continue to do so. I am glad for that. Thank you for the decisions. Let me also say that I am very proud of our cooperation with the governmental side. We are here. The SG is not here. the chairperson in office, is not here, but Canada is far away. And we have had a good cooperation. I am so pleased for the cooperation with the Polish chairpersonship. It was excellent. The cooperation with the Swedish chairpersonship, it was excellent. The cooperation with the North Macedonia chairpersonship is excellent. I can tell you that we have done several statements together. It shows a cooperation. There have been an excellent cooperation together with the special representative on human trafficking, Val Ritchie, because there is a need that we continue to work together and use our forces for this. And also Dr. Heidi Fry's cooperation with ODIHR to find the gender audit. There is a lot to continue to build on because the cooperation is there and it should be stronger even. But also as a multilateral organization, I think about the work done by the Ad Hoc Committee on Counterterrorism, working where Reinhard Lopatka is everywhere on the world speaking about our work against terrorism. But also the committee, Ad Hoc Committee on Migration, where Mark Pritchard have done a great job with his contacts with particular European Union and other countries around. And I myself have been traveling around, speaking with other multilateral organizations. I have been invited by United UNDP to Kyrgyzstan to see what we can do together to also get them closer to the Bishkek Academy. I have been at United Nations speaking with the warriors ambassadors and also on the leadership with the Deputy Secretary General. I think there is something to build on because I hope that we can get an observer status as a parliamentarian assembly in the future. And let me say that the work will not end with me. There will be a new elected president. And you, dear colleagues, you are there, and I will continue. My new role is President Emeritus. And I will try to not be the one who is saying it was better when I was president. Instead, be supportive in the background. But thank you once again, and it has been fantastic to get your support. Thank you. So, we are moving on the agenda. And now it's number 9. Election of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly officers. I don't know if the counting is ready. It's ready, did I hear Andreas Baker say? So we are waiting for the tellers. They are here. Then I will give the floor to Mr. Chief Teller, Peter Juel Jensen.
Yes,
we are exciting. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'll be announcing the President. There were casted 173 votes, and Pia Kauma won with 101 votes, and Mark Thank you. And Mark Pritchard with 68 votes. I would like to congratulate them both. Oh, and there were 4 blanks. Vice Presidents?
For Vice Presidents, we have Daniela de Ruyter with 106 votes, Nikita Puturayev with 97 votes, Pascal Lecan 68, Christian Vigenin 79, Adjani Kyriakos 81, and Loperfieldo 59. So we have these vice presidents: Daniela de Ruyter, Nikita Puturayev, and Adjani Kyriakos. Congratulations, all the three.
Dear colleagues, for the Treasurer, we have a total of 202 voters, and Johan Boezers is the new Treasurer with 121 votes. Farah Karimi gets 74, and we had 7 blanks. Thank you.
Thank you to the tellers. You have done a very good job and we have counted on you. I would also say thank you to all colleagues who have run for the open candidatures. And I do first say thank you to those who are not elected, but I hope you will continue in the Assembly and look forward your contribution, further contribution to the Assembly. Then I would like to say congratulations to our colleagues who are elected. First to the Treasurer, Johan Boezer, then to the Vice Presidents, Mikita Potorayev, Dr. Daniela de Ridder, and our dear Hadrianos Kyriakos. Thank you. And also, not last but most, to our new elected president, Ms. Pia Kauma from Finland. Congratulations. And by this, I would like to give the floor to our new elected president, Ms. Pia Kauma, to give a short speech and say a few words from the floor. Please, Ms. Pia Kauma, can you come up to the table? We are waiting for you. Ms. President Pia Kauma, may I ask you to come up to the table? Dear colleagues, please wait and congratulate our new president a few seconds, because now we are waiting to hear her speech. I know that there's a lot of colleagues who have to leave the Assembly, and it would be very pity if you don't have the possibility to listen to new president. Vice President Pia Kauma, who is now president, our new president. The floor is yours, madam. Please take the floor, Madam President.
Madam President, dear colleagues, thank you to all of you from the bottom of my heart for trusting me to lead this Assembly for the next year. Let me start by saying a warm thank to you, Pere and Mark, for a very good campaign. It has been tough fare, and I look forward to continuing our excellent cooperation and to hear your insightful thoughts in the Bureau. If we want to improve the relevance of this Assembly, we must work together in unity. Je voudrais aussi chaleureusement remercier le Parlement du Canada de votre excellente hospitalité. In particular, I would like to thank Dr. Hedy Fry, the chair of the Canadian OSCE EPA delegation, for inviting us to your beautiful hometown of Vancouver. We have felt so welcome, and you have taken such a good care of us, so thank you on behalf of all of us. We have enjoyed excellent food, gorgeous sceneries, and Canadian hospitality, but we have also worked very hard to adopt the Vancouver Declaration. Thank you to all of you for good debates on topical issues. Thank you also for your constructive approach to the challenges that we are now facing. The OSCE is at the crossroads, but I strongly believe that our organization is worth of all our efforts. Dear friends, I want to extend a special thank you to our Ukrainian friends and colleagues who, despite being faced with a brutal war destroying your homes and your people, have taken the time to be here with us and discuss pressing matters. Your commitment to us and to this organization clearly shows our importance. Together we are stronger, and only together can we solve common challenges. Thank you for defending peace and democracy in Europe. We will stand by your side and help you for as long as it takes for you to be free. I have big shoes to fill, my friends. I want to say thank you to my dear friend Margareta for leading us through these unprecedented challenges with strong determination. I also cannot stand here without mentioning former President, late Ilkka Kanerva, my dear friend and mentor. He is dearly missed, and we would have needed his wisdom and experience in these dire times. Thank you also to the outgoing Finnish delegation for your support and friendship. A full-scale war is raging in Europe, and the OSCE is needed more than ever. I will do my utmost to contribute to a solution to the stalled decision-making of the OSCE. This benefits us, but also those who want to silence us. Together, we are stronger. We have a lot of work to do, and my friends, I'm known to be a hard worker. My work starts today.
Thank you, Madam President. And now, we are coming to the closure of the 30th annual session of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you very much for your active engagement throughout the annual session. Let me also thank the leadership of our committees for guiding our work since our last annual session. Many thanks go also to the members who have proposed the supplementary items which we have debated here in Vancouver. Thanks to our debates over the past 5 days, I'm sure that we return back home more knowledgeable on a variety of issues dealt with by the OSCE. And let us once again congratulate our new elected president and the new members of the Bureau. Of course, our gratitude goes as well to Dr. Heidi Fry, to the City of Vancouver, and to the Canadian Parliament. Thank you once again for hosting us. But I would also say thank you to the International Secretariat, because I know that you have really worked very, very hard to get the annual session in place. I was here in Canada in the spring together with Deputy Secretary General Gustavo Payeras. I have seen Odile Lessange running around, fixing everything in the most perfect manner. I have seen Andreas Baker always giving advice how to go further on. And of course, Secretary General holding his hand over everything here. So thank you, dear International Secretariat, for your work to let us parliamentarians hold the annual session. I would also like to say thank you to all those who have given the technical support, the logistical support, the interpreters for your work. Thank you. Without this wouldn't been able to hold the session here. I would also like to say, all of you, a safe trip back home, and hope you manage to bring the message from here with you back home to your national parliament and your constituency, to those who have elected us. Have a nice summer, and wish you all the best. And now, my last duty as president, and after that, I am President Emeritus. I close the meeting, the annual session for 2023. I called it for closed. Thank you.